Continue. How do you know the number of people in Golden Horse Riders Department exceed this 8,000s? Tai Longcheng cautiously asked. Do you know what this means? It means that in the entire continent, there is no military group capable of stopping a direct attack from the Golden Horse Riders Department. I can tell you that those who have not reached the level of Martial Master would not be chosen to enter Golden Horse Riders Department. Tai Longcheng was truly surprised. The existence of Golden Horse Riders Department was a big secret even within Daewoo King Ru's internal circle. Iron Cloud had to pay a very expensive price along with countless people laying down their lives to discover this information on Daewoo King Ru's secret army. Even though they knew this, all the information about Golden Horse Riders Department came in fragments, and could not be pieced together. Unexpectedly, this kid in front of Tai Longcheng spoke about it as if this was some old news, not some big secret. The 8,000 are just the number of Golden Horse Riders warriors. Within Golden Horse Riders Department, there are not just Golden Horse Riders warriors. Chu Yang spread his fingers and counted as if he was familiar with everything. Golden Horse Riders warriors are the fighting force of Golden Horse Riders Department, their secret fighting force. Only at key moments where the outcome of a battle is determined do they get deployed. But that's not all. Within Golden Horse Riders Department there exists command horse riders who are in charge of the upper-level decision-making and planning. Black horse riders are killers. Only 1 in 10,000s are chose. Specific numbers are unknown. Besides them, there are also silver horse riders who take care of the financials. Each country on the continent has about 1,000 wealthy people. Within this group, at least 10 are silver horse riders. Then there are iron horse riders in charge of information gathering. Finally, there is mysterious horse riders in charge of overseeing operations within Golden Horse Riders Department. The total strength of Golden Horse Riders Department is at least 30,000 people. Chu Yang laughed and continued. Currently, Bhutan Pavilion of Prince Tai Bhutan is about the same manpower as Golden Horse Riders Department, but, in terms of organization and fighting power, it is about 10,000 miles behind Golden Horse Riders Department, a difference of heaven and earth. Tai Longcheng and the young lady looked at each other, internally dismayed. They knew that Daewoo King Ru never used his full strength, but they never thought that Daewoo King Ru still reserved such massive force as this. In addition, in court, Daewoo King Ru has the support of all officials. All those against him, either dead or banished, are out of Great Zhao's power center. All the proposals he puts out have no objections. This focus of power is his greatest strength. Chu Yang slowly continued, as far as I know, Daewoo King Ru has a secret agreement with the wolf tribe of the northern grassland. I don't know the details of their agreement, but I know this has happened. Chu Yang tossed out a piece of crucial news. This actually happened in the previous life. When Daewoo King Ru started full-out war with Iron Cloud, Langtai unexpectedly attacked. At that time, the world knew about that agreement. Before that, even in Daewoo King Ru power circle, very few knew about it. Tai Longcheng's eyes suddenly flashed, but his face never showed any reactions, as if he was wearing a mask. The wolf tribe, Northern Grassland, was on Iron Cloud's back, receiving a stab in the back after a peaceful coexistence. Everything was off. Iron Cloud Nation was planning to create a good relationship with the wolf tribe in the Northern Grassland in the shortest amount of time possible. But they had to deal with Daewoo King Ru first. In this past half year, the first wave of ambassadors and gifts have successfully arrived at the Wolf Tribe region. They were planning on sending another one soon. If Prince Tai Bhutan's sisters had not passed away, then they would have already been given up for political marriages already. With this news, though unverified, they felt as if their insides was being burned. If this was true, then all of Iron Cloud was being played by the Wolf Tribe. This betrayal was something Tai Longcheng could not accept because this strategy was suggested by his military advisors. The military always resorted to war, not peacemaking, but the pressure from Daewoo King Ru was too great, so they had to put out this peacemaking plan. If they went straight into a trap because of this, it would be a great shame. On the other hand, the young lady's countenance looked extremely casual, as if she did not truly understand this. A large portion of people in Jiang who are Daewoo King Ru's people. Besides that, Amongst the 7 major sects of lower 3 heavens, 2 are already completely under his control. Other sects all have his people on the inside. Tai Longcheng's countenance became more and more grave. Daiwu King Ru also has 4 peak level experts working for him. 2 of them are in charge of protecting him. The other 2 are first and second leader of Golden Horse Riders Department. I heard that with their abilities they could easily advance into middle 3 heavens. In fact, they are no less than the experts of middle 3 heavens. They are all of king level. The strongest person is already a grade 5 Saber King. Chu Yang just threw out another piece of earth-shattering news. For king-level experts, this news made Tai Longcheng and the young lady stunned. Even Gaduk Singh standing next to him looked over in shock. Not possible. Shouldn't king-level experts have already advanced into middle 3 heavens? Upper 3 heavens even. They choose to live in such place like lower 3 heavens? Gaduk Singh asked. Not just king level, but there are some of Emperor's levels who would prefer human wealth and... Chu Yang smiled. Otherwise, would such a dispute happen? Becoming strong to watch over the world is only the wish of some. Fame, wealth and women are the true pursuits of most people. Young man, what you said makes sense. Tai Longcheng sighed and muttered, no wonder my 2 revered level martial brothers went to assassinate Daiwu King Ru and never came back. So there are even king-level experts next to Daiwu King Ru. His voice was somber, full of bitterness. Daiwu King Ru having high-level guards was something Tai Longcheng speculated after the failed assassination attempted. However, he could never have imagined that there were actually 4 king-level experts. King-level experts in lower 3 heavens were like mountains you cannot pass. In principle, this was something that could not be. Tai Longcheng's straight spear-like figure suddenly stooped a little. His countenance looked strange, as if remorseful, as if, in 10 years, Daiwu King Ru had built up his circle, especially with the military. It is everywhere. General, you have fought with Great Zhao many times. You have seen it. These past 10 years, all the generals loyal to Great Zhao's emperor are nowhere to be seen. Or, they fell to Iron Cloud's victories. Am I correct? Yes. Tai Longcheng sighed as the wrinkles on his face deepened further. At the same time, the upcoming young ones were extremely difficult to deal with. Daiwu King Ru used a tactic like this to eliminate any internal opposition. He cruelly prepared his plan for 10 years later. Chu Yang was talking when he suddenly stopped. He just realized the most incredible thing. Daiwu King Ru planned for events that happened simultaneously in 2 countries. Without cooperation, he would not be able to achieve this, no matter how incredible he was. He especially did not have the ability to control enemy soldiers. This. Tai Longcheng sighed and answered weakly, you are correct. This powerful general, each time he spoke, he seemed to have aged a little more. There was definitely someone cooperating in all of this. The person who cooperated with him is none other than me. Tai Longcheng sighed and answered sadly. The young lady suddenly turned her head toward Tai Longcheng, her gaze sharp as a sword and cold as ice. But as the pensiveness in her eyes increased, that sharpness also slowly disappeared. 3 years ago, the emperor suddenly got hit by a poisoned arrow. His life was like a candle in the wind. At the time, the prince was only 10. And even though he was brilliant, it would have been difficult for people to accept his rule. Iron Cloud was at the verge of crumbling down. All the officials were thinking for themselves. It was a dangerous situation, like 1,000-pound weight hanging by a hair. Tai Longcheng said slowly. It made Chu Yang feel as if he was explaining himself. This was the first time they met. Even if he had the status, this man still shouldn't have to explain to him like this. This was really curious. Tai Longcheng continued. After that, Daiwu King Ru suddenly made some mistakes in the battlefield. Unexplainable situations that made seasoned generals of Great Zhao leave their bodies in the battlefield. These 3 battles were essentially inconsequential to Great Zhao, and certainly did not have to be so costly to them. Because, at that time, they only had to simultaneously attack, and all of Iron Cloud would have gone up in a puff of smoke in about half a year. Our Iron Cloud was basically powerless at that point. However, at that key moment, the enemy's generals suddenly went to their deaths due to erroneous intelligence reports. As a result, we were able to easily wipe them out. Those decisive battles were the surviving chance that Iron Cloud needed. Afterwards, we sat down and went over everything. In looking at those 3 battles, we discovered that no matter how we tried, we never had the ability to push them into such trap. In another word, they were looking for their own deaths. They wanted death. This made us surprised and puzzled. After these incident, Great Zhao Nation's military took a month to rest and regroup. However, they did not need to rest or regroup at all. It seemed as if they were giving us time to regain our strength and strategize our plans on purpose. Tai Longcheng took in a deep breath and said, "It was not until we brought back information from Great Zhao and carefully analyzed many times that we discovered it was Dawu King Ru's conspiracy. Unfortunately, we could do nothing but cooperate with this conspiracy. We could not avoid allowing him to lead us by the nose. Dawu King Ru needed a prolonged war to gather its exploits, eliminate his dissidents, increase his following, and bring the military under his control. And, at that period, our Iron Cloud needed time much more than Dawu King Ru did. Moreover, we needed to gather the country's military, because that period was key to the survival of Iron Cloud. If we did not cooperate, then Iron Cloud Nation would have fallen in only a few months. And even if we did not cooperate, Dawu King Ru still had other opportunities. Limitless Nation, for example. We had no choice. It was a humiliation. But we had to swallow our pride and live. When Tai Longcheng got to this, he let out a very long sigh. Even though he did not continue, Chu Yang and the others understood. At that time, the two sides cooperated to eliminate dissidents and unify their respective nations. Without an actual agreement, you achieve your battle accomplishments. I take back my territories, you get rid of opposition, I eliminate my enemies, and everything quietly happened that way. In short, their goals were the same: unify all of their respective nations' power to realize their own strength. If Dawu King Ru went to war at that time, Great Zhao would, without a doubt, have had complete victory. However, after that victory, he would have to face the doubt and opposition among some officials as well as soldiers. At that time, his foundation was not yet stable. In the worst-case scenario, he could end up without a place to bury his dead body. Even if he could keep his life and his position at the time, he would have absolutely lost any opportunity to advance to the peak of power. With Dawu King Ru's ambition and the wonderful opportunity in front of him, how could he have let it pass? Of course he could not. At the time, the entire Iron Cloud Nation was held by Tai Longcheng. In such a precarious situation, the nation seemed as if it could fall apart by itself. Tai Longcheng, naturally, did not want to battle either. The commanders of two countries never met each other even once. And even though they were separated by tens of thousands of miles, their tacit cooperation was terrifyingly perfect. The two sides controlled each other, restrained each other. Today, you beat me and kill a general opposing me. Tomorrow, I beat you and kill your opposition. Millions of soldiers killing each other at the border of the two countries was no more than a game between two people. Millions of souls to create worldly fame for Dawu King Ru. On the other hand, those millions of souls also helped unify Iron Cloud. The only thing was, this game was for the two sides to buy some time and to gain status. But, for both sides, the underlying motives were completely different. Dawu King Ru was working for Great Zhao, but, even more so, he was working for himself. As for Tai Longcheng, after a long period of battle, he had managed to successfully unify a fragmented Iron Cloud. That separated nation had now turned into a powerful force. Without such precise cooperation between Tai Longcheng and Dawu King Ru, Iron Cloud Nation would absolutely not be able to hang on until now. Not to mention Prince Taibutan ever having the chance to take control and standing at the same level as Dawu King Ru. All the changes in this was unimaginable even if one racked their brain. Moreover, with each move, the commander had to put out some underlying intentions that only his counterpart could understand. That was how they each achieved their goals. Such underlying intentions were definitely not recognized by outsiders. As an outsider, how much thought would you need to put into this? This was really unthinkable. Chu Yang really had no way of imagining how this General Tai Longcheng got this current result. Under Dawu King Ru's direction, he cooperated fully, but did not allow his opposition achieve his full goal. Moreover, under the Skynet that the enemy threw out, he still managed to step by step build up resistant strength for Iron Cloud. Up to this point, The border between the two countries had become like a fortified wall. This person's ability to calculate, govern and control in both political and military front, while not equal to that of Daewoo King Ru, it was not that far behind. Two enemies that could never be under one sky fought with each other while helping each other amass power. These two were truly terrifying. But there was one thing that was really chilling to Chu Yang, in Tai Long Cheng and Daewoo King Ru's fighting. They had looked at millions of soldiers on both sides as no more than something that could be thrown away. These were millions of lives. Chu Yang had never understood the phrase a general build his success on 10,000 dry bones as he did now. You're regretting it? The person that said this was Gadu Crossing. His gaze was like two icy swords aiming at Tai Long Cheng. Millions of soldiers left their bodies in the battlefield because of the cooperation between the two of you. Not millions. The actual number is 2,793,796 people. Tai Long Cheng's face was like that of a statue, emotionless. This is the number up to now. This is only the number of the ones that laid down their lives. This number does not include the injured, the handicapped, unable to battle any longer, the missing. This was the great price paid for Ironclad's current state. Regret. I, Tai Long Cheng, never regret. Death in the battlefield is the destiny of soldiers. Tai Long Cheng's eyes never moved, as if he was staring into nothingness. I am saddened and sorry for those fates. But I definitely do not regret. Sorry and saddened? Gaduk Singh smiled coldly. When you sent those soldiers and placed them into their place of death, were you saddened and sorry? I know that their commanding officers were in the wrong and were not loyal to you. But the soldiers were blameless. Couldn't you have chosen another method to preserve the lives of the soldiers? Gaduk Singh really was not able to imagine that there could be such a thing in this world. The better the person, the more loyal the person, the more likely they were to become sacrificed, the more easily they were to be tossed aside. What sort of SHT principle is this? Such ridiculous moves were actually made by the leaders of two superpowers. Too representative for two large nations who should take care of their own people turned out to be two cruel executioners. They single-handedly sent millions of young men to their deaths. If I did not do that, how could I have won Daewoo King Ru's trust? With all the dead soldiers, I am saddened but I have no regrets. Tai Long Cheng coldly said, they died. But the lives of 600 million people of Ironclad are protected. Without their deaths, Ironclad would have already become a territory of Great Zhao 8 years ago. At that time, all of the men and women of Ironclad Nation would have become slaves for people to abuse, for people to bully. I, Tai Long Cheng, did a despicable thing, but I do not regret it. Even if history books will someday write out the truth about these past 8 years. Even if I, Tai Long Cheng, am to become an eternal sinner, I have no regrets. If these things were repeated, I would also choose the same path. If I, Tai Long Cheng, had surrendered and let Great Zhao attack, my own losses would not be that great. In Ironclad, I am a prince and also a grand marshal. If Great Zhao takes over, I would at least be a royal or a royal court official. I will never be a person for people to step on, even Daewoo King Ru would not dare. So what if I am scorned? Tai Long Cheng smiled. Even infamy has to be borne by someone. To protect Ironclad is reason enough to take on this infamy. But infamy is not easy to bear. Chu Yang snorted and said, you two cooperated closely like this, used each other to this level. You did not forget to place spies within enemies' ranks, right? Tai Long Cheng's body suddenly became stiff. His eyes shot out two sharp bolts of lightning in Chu Yang's direction and remained quiet after that. 8 years. 8 years of fighting have caused both sides to suffer great damages. Naturally, there would be a high turnover, and these spies could use each victory to advance in position. Those times are the best for placing spies. I don't believe Grand Marshal Tai did not do that. Tai Long Cheng's countenance became cold as he stood still. I am also sure that Daewoo King Ru already have people well placed in Ironclad. Moreover, even though you are capable of strategizing, understanding tactics, recognizing battle plans, fighting for your country's interest, looking at the big picture. But you are not like Daewoo King Ru. You are not a master conspirator and politician like him. Therefore, I especially believe in this. Chu Yang smiled. His words made Tai Long Cheng's whole body turn cold. If you were able to place 10 spies in Great Zhao, Daiwu King Ru's spies in Iron Cloud would be no less than 100. A difference of 10 times. He paused and said, I am referring to the army, Grand Marshal. Tai Long Cheng quietly let out a sigh. Therefore, at first glance it might seem like Iron Cloud is currently stable and fortified. But if Daiwu King Ru really starts war, then Iron Cloud will be no different from 8 years ago, unable to take a beating. As Chu Yang went on, he became more critical. You don't really believe Daiwu King Ru would allow you to turn Iron Cloud into an unbreakable block of iron, do you? If you truly believe this, you are not worthy of this number 1 general position. Tai Long Cheng let out a strange laugh and said with heartfelt praise, that's right. Very well said. He then suddenly became pensive and asked, these things you just said, do you have a secret spy network or did you see through everything on your own? Did you really figure this out? As these words came out of Tai Long Cheng's mouth, the eyes of the young lady, who have been standing quietly on the side, suddenly brightened. Her body turned in Chu Yang's direction as her gaze seemed to show a sense of great urgency. Tai Long Cheng's tone was very cautious as he asked this question. It was because this question was of great importance. If Chu Yang had such a network of spies that was capable of getting information that he could not, then it would certainly be a big help. With this powerful spying force alone, Chu Yang would be qualified to work with Iron Cloud. Work with, not work for. However, if Chu Yang did not have any spy network and he was able to extrapolate these things from a few little clues, then it was even more terrifying. This proved that this youth in front of them had intelligence that was absolutely not inferior to Daiwu King Ru's, even a fraction more. This is an exceptional talent. One person who can bring glory to the state. One person who can determine the fate of the nation. This saying was meant for such a person. Chu Yang was silent for a moment, then he said, I don't have such a powerful intelligence-gathering force. Tai Long Cheng and the young lady simultaneously changed color with shock. Since the beginning they were acting casual. Even when Chu Yang told them about the plots and massive strength of Daiwu King Ru, their gazes only flashed a little emotion. But after hearing these words, their countenance immediately changed. All of these things came from this young man's wisdom. I did not figure these things out. Chu Yang added. He knew Tai Long Cheng's thoughts when he asked such a question. He also knew that there were great advantages to simply letting the man misunderstand. However, Chu Yang had to let this chance go, because if the other person truly misunderstood, after they cooperate, Chu Yang would surely be asked for input on many issues. Even though he would have many privileges beyond his desire at that time, one erroneous judgment would directly cause millions of soldiers' lives. Such a thing would have a direct effect on the war between the two nations. Once a mistake is made, even he could not have any means to turn the situation around, and everything would happen as it did in the previous life, unchangeable. If Chu Yang really had such deductive skills, he would, naturally, not avoid this. However, he was just using the memories of his previous life. He never had such fine observation skills. This, he knew. This was the reason he let the opportunity go. But he also did not explain clearly and only gave Tai Long Cheng vague hints to let him think, this person is surely an exceptional talent. DLN, make them think I am a talent. But don't admit it. Tai Long Cheng thought for a little. When he looked up and still didn't hear Chu Yang say anything else, he immediately knew that since they were not cooperating, Chu Yang obviously wanted to keep secrets to himself and would not give comprehensive details. So now was the time to negotiate. But Tai Long Cheng did not, because he had other plans. He turned and looked at Chu Yang. You have said this much. What do you want? Everything you said were undisclosed secrets of Daiwu King Ru. Regardless of how you knew all this, based on that alone, you are of great value. You don't like Daiwu King Ru. I believe you. So you came to Iron Cloud with what motive? What I want is, in fact, very clear. Chu Yang smiled. You cannot see it. Tai Long Cheng also smiled. Yes. Whatever you want to do is no business of mine. The person you want to find is Prince Taibutan, not me. The moment he said the words Taibutan, Tai Long Cheng did not even blink and only looked straight ahead at Chu Yang. But there was something unusual in his voice. I did not want to find you, but you brought yourself here. Chu Yang snorted and said angrily, "And you blockaded my heavenly armament pavilion. Today, you came and looked for me. But you are worried about raising Prince Bhutan's suspicions, so you're leaving. You're even saying I shouldn't look for you." Chu Yang sighed. "You're so old you're talking rubbish now, ha ha ha." Hearing what Chu Yang said, Tai Longcheng's guards glared, but Tai Longcheng, himself, just laughed freely and walked out. Upon reaching the door, he turned his head and looked at Chu Yang. "I like these swords of yours, but 100,000 gold is too expensive. Rare items, I also have a lot of. But these, I want to save for the soldiers, they are not for exchange." "Well, how will I get these swords of yours?" Chu Yang was beginning to feel dizzy. He had never seen anyone so thick-skinned as this. His talking like that, was it any different from asking me to give him one? He snapped. "I don't really want to part with these swords, and certainly will not give them to just anyone. The one person I will not give them to is you, ha ha ha." Tai Longcheng was especially cheerful. He laughed until tears came out. "Boy, in the end, you will have to give them to me. I guarantee this. At that time, I will not accept, leaving you to beg for a while before accepting reluctantly. Just you wait and see." When he was done speaking, he once again laughed heartily. After leaving such a cryptic message like this, he immediately went out the door and left. "Want me to beg you? You can keep waiting." Chu Yang snorted. "It's not even dark and you're already having such a nice dream." Swooshing sounds were heard outside in a very orderly fashion. Within moments, the whole street was without any soldiers. The soldiers withdrew quickly but did not create any sort of commotion, not even a tiny one. In the distance, bustling sounds started to ring out. At this time, the street started to recover its liveliness. Chu Yang turned around and was about to say something when his mouth suddenly opened wide. In front of him now was only Gadu crossing. That strange young lady had disappeared. It seemed she had come to talk prices for fun. After not doing anything else, she left without a trace. Where did she go? Chu Yang scratched his head. Who cares if she left or not? I have a question for you. Gaduk Singh looked at him seriously. You want to intervene in the war between Iron Cloud Nation and Great Zhou Nation, don't you? Chu Yang nodded and replied, yes. This is a very stupid decision. You and I are just martial artists. I believe you know what being a martial artist means. The position of martial artists in this lower three heavens, the attitude of the royal court toward martial artists, these are not things you don't know. What's more, whether it is the royal court or the battlefield, they are both much more dangerous than Jianghu. I don't think this is a good decision on your part. I know this is not the path for martial artists. I also know about the danger. I am also sure that once I put myself on this path I could die at any time without a place to bury my body. Even so, I still must take it. Chu Yang looked at Gaduk Singh and said, just as you would rather die 10,000 times than not save Miao Ling, I also have similar reasons. Gaduk Singh looked straight into Chu Yang's eyes and saw, in the depth of his eyes, pain mixed with longing. This type of deep emotion was even more profound compared to his love for Miao Ling. Gaduk Singh slowly nodded. At this moment, he suddenly understood why Chu Yang wanted to help him save Miao Ling. Even though Chu Yang did not say, Gaduk Singh already understood his thoughts. Chu Yang, too, had a love like that. Therefore, he would not allow any female to suffer an unfortunate fate. He also would not allow a beautiful and sincere love to turn to dust and be buried with time. It was also at this moment that a warm feeling rose inside of Gadu Crossing. If you think this is dangerous, then you can still leave now. Chu Yang said casually, my promise to help you, I will still keep. I want to leave. But I understand. The place that can help me cultivate the quickest is the battlefield. Gaduk Singh smiled. His smile was as bright and warm as the sun. After all, I already agreed to sell myself to you for 10 years. I might want to back out, but honoring my commitment is more important. He winked a few times and continued. You only cared about keeping your own promises. You want me not to keep mine and become a bad person? Chu Yang quietly looked at him for a long time before he finally relaxed and smiled. Yeah, I thought you wanted to take back your words. I didn't expect this. Gaduk Singh laughed out loud and punched Chu Yang on the shoulder hard. The two looked at each other and suddenly laughed. In this moment, a brotherly love, the kind that can weather through storms and hardship, sprouted inside both of them. You can put out all your efforts for my sake. I can put my life on the line for your sake. It was that simple. The two young men had officially accepted each other, but neither said a word. On the contrary, they used their previous agreement as an excuse to cover their sincerity. However, both sides knew that the other person understood their true feelings. The happiness at this moment was truly warm. Not too far off from there, within the military's circle of protection, Tai Longcheng and that strange young lady were talking quietly with each other. Tai Longcheng, this person is useful. We can use him to do great things. Young lady, huh? Really? Stop pretending in front of me. Why did you come here? And by yourself, too? Even though I don't know why he wants to go head-to-head with Daewoo King Ru, when he opened Heavenly Armament Pavilion. The words Heavenly Armament were enough for me to understand his intentions. Tai Longcheng smiled. Surely no one would be stupid enough to open a Heavenly Armament Pavilion in Iron Cloud because these two words Heavenly Armament are a taboo here. And yet he did this on purpose. Because of this, I thought he did not know what happened before. The young lady nodded, then suddenly turned and asked, "This is why, second uncle. I came here because of this. Also because when you met him at the Citadel Gate, you showed interest in him, a little too much interest. Looking for talents like a drought looks for rain is a good thing of course. But you are still young. Your second uncle might be old, but I will help you look at people." Tai Longcheng smiled. "I just didn't think you would be so quick." So everything second uncle said to him was all intentional? The young lady thought for a little and smiled again. Each sentence carried some meaning. Second uncle is truly shrewd. Haha, he wants to deal with Daewoo King Ru and you were also there. So of course, I told him the great price we had to pay for going head-to-head with Daewoo King Ru. This was something that was necessary to be done. But those secrets that he spoke of, I don't even know some of them. But this opened up second uncle's old wounds. The young lady took a deep breath and said with great gravity, "I know that in this entire Iron Cloud nation, the one person that really doesn't want to talk about that year was you, second uncle. But today, you brought it up first. Second uncle did that for me. Also for Iron Cloud." Tai Longcheng's face became somber, resilience clearly shown on his face. Not talking about it does not mean it did not happen. If there comes a day when second uncle can no longer go into the battlefield, I hope that you people won't make the wrong judgments because history had concealed the truth. That is why I must talk about it. Even if the wound has already scarred over, it must be uncovered. Even though this person could be used, we should still be cautious. It is certain that he wants to go against Daewoo King Ru, there is no doubt about that. However, his reasons are unclear. The strangest thing is that I did not see a thirst for power in his eyes. This truly surprised me. Tai Longcheng mused. Has that day finally come? You're saying? The trials? Well, that's a possibility. If that is the case, then your identity should definitely not be exposed. DLN, referring to all the mid-upper heaven youths going into Jianghu chapter 42. But there has not been talk of such a legend in a long time. You need to seize this opportunity, and also send people to investigate, see if there has been sudden appearances of powerful youngsters. Tai Longcheng said plainly, if there are, especially if there are more than one, then our guess is correct. But we still have to keep some distance from that person. Of course, he could be used, but not controlled. This Chu Yang was really expelled from beyond the heavens sect. The young lady mused for a while before slowly saying these words. Expelled by Beyond the Heavens sect? How could that be? How could Wu Yunliang be willing to toss out such a talent? I also felt that was strange. Moreover, I felt the person next to him really came from that place. The person next to him? The young man next to him was also very scary. Moreover, his origin is even more mysterious compared to Chu Yang's. He seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Regardless, as long as he listens to Chu Yang, it's fine. Therefore, we only need to worry about watching Chu Yang's actions. In addition,
Find a way for Wu Liang of Beyond the Heavens sect and I to meet. I want to ask him a few questions. Sure. Let the court officials know that the case of the massive robberies no longer needs to be investigated. Tai Longcheng laughed. If they keep investigating, and accidentally find out the truth, wouldn't you have to waste your energy to wipe his butt? So second uncle also thought about this. The red-faced young lady said. Of course her skin was still a little thin for these butt-wiping words from her second uncle. It's more like everyone wants to wipe his butt. Tai Longcheng laughed. This made the young lady a little pensive. Then suddenly her eyes lit up. These were crude words, but did they hold some profound meaning? At a fork on the road, the young lady and Tai Longcheng parted ways. The young lady waved and gently fluttered off. After a few turns, she disappeared. Tai Longcheng's eyes followed as the young lady slowly went away. In his eyes, there suddenly appeared a trace of pity. He sighed and muttered, Iron Cloud has become a burden, difficult to hold up. No matter how heavy the burden is, as long as Grand Marshal is here, Iron Cloud will remain. His second-in-command standing next to him said respectfully, as if he completely had faith in Tai Longcheng. I am only Grand Marshal, not. Tai Longcheng shook his head, and without finishing that sentence he yelled, let's go home. With that, he headed forward, leading the group. Not too far in the distance was Heaven's Prestige Manor, Tai Longcheng's residence. In Iron Cloud Nation, Tai Longcheng was given the title Heaven's Prestige Royal Highness. I am already old. It's time step aside and let enthusiastic young people take over. Tai Longcheng thought and ordered, in the future, all military matters, big or small, should be reported to the prince at the same time you report to me. If it's not a big battle, you don't need to ask for my opinion. I need to rest for a few years. This. The subordinates next to him were horrified. The prince can take care of it. Tai Longcheng said lightly, if he cannot then this nation does not need to exist anymore. His words were filled with implications. Even though Tai Longcheng left, his blockade order was never rescinded. Even though many people came and looked, but not one dared to enter. However, the two people in the shop were not worried at all. Around noon, Gaduk Singh grabbed a lot of money and lavishly bought food and wine. With the entire table filled, the two took their time eating and drinking. After filling up a cup, Gaduk Singh brought it up and said, Chu Yang, this one is to you. Good, cheers. Ah, strangely, I don't want to drink this cup of wine. Oh, why? After I drink this, I, Gaduk Singh, will no longer journey alone. DLN, Duke Singh. Not matching with my name at all. Then you should change your name. Gushwangf, DLN, flying in bear. How do you feel about that? That's okay. But, you fly me or I fly you? DLN, Shwangf also means union between husband and wife. Get out of here. You can fly with a pair of pigs. DLN, Shwangf is also used nowadays as a slang for a threesome. Ha ha ha. After 3 rounds, there were 2 empty wine jars on the ground. The 2 jars on the table were half empty. Each of these was a 5-pound wine jar. Moreover, this was the strongest type of wine. Gaduk Singh was getting a little tipsy, and said loudly, Chu Yang, I just realized how great you are, but I still can't figure out what family kicked you out. There is no reason anymore. In this world, how could there be a young person worthy of my respect? This is wrong. I have no family. Chu Yang paused for a moment and hastily emptied a cup of wine. No family, I am an orphan. More specifically, I was abandoned. Chu Yang laughed and tears came out of his eyes. I don't even know my own name. My current name was given by my teacher. Silence filled the air. That's still good. At least you still have hope of meeting your parents again. You just don't know where they are. Gaduk Singh sighed. I have parents, and I know who they are. But my parents were both killed. I will never be able to see them again. Meh, let's not talk about that anymore. Drink, drink. Yes, drink. Let's not talk about that anymore. Chu Yang, before I met you, I did not have a brother, ha ha ha, but now I have one. He, really? Where is he? Why haven't I met him yet? It doesn't matter that you haven't met him. It's enough that I met him, ha ha ha. Brother. A brother is what? Brother, ha ha ha. A brother is a brother, not a what?
Gaduk Singh laughed loudly. If there is a mountain of knives in front of my brother, I would be ready to go over that mountain for him. This is a brother. Even if my brother does not see me as a brother, I only need to see him as a brother to make it so. Gaduk Singh was finally drunk. He stood up unsteadily and suddenly beat his chest as he looked up to the heavens and yelled, "In 2 decades, I have never been this happy. Ha ha ha, happy." He suddenly fell down on the table and started snoring. Chu Yang's vision was getting a little hazy, but his hand still brought the wine cup to his mouth. After swallowing the wine, he suddenly became still. He muttered, "If there is a mountain of knives in front of my brother, I would be ready to go over that mountain for him. This is a brother. Even if my brother does not see me as a brother, I only need to see him as a brother to make it so." He nodded his head a few times. Then he shook his head and smiled as he muttered, "If you treat your brother that way, then your brother would naturally treat you that way. Being brothers is about taking care of each other. It takes 2 not 1. His eyes stared blankly into space as he whispered, "If you are my brother then you will definitely not be alone." Even though the volume was low, these words were full of bravado. He suddenly reminisced about Dantian, the person who found the only precious treasure in his whole lifetime and wanted to give it to his martial brother. That is also a brother. He lifted the wine jar and chugged. Wine spilled everywhere. The consequence of this drinking was the closing of Heavenly Armament Pavilion. 2 drunken men snored as they lay on the table. Outside the door, people were coming and going. But inside, sounds of snoring rang out. The smell of wine and meat spread everywhere. These 2 people had a rare indulgence. They both knew that such careless indulgence would be hard to come by later. It was not until the afternoon that the 2 came to. Their wine-soaked clothes were dried. They looked at each other and suddenly laughed. In this moment, there was a knock on the door. "Excuse me, is this Chu Yang's place?" The voice belonged to a young lady. Chu Yang was startled. He was very familiar with this voice. It was Wu Qianqian's voice. As soon as the door opened, Wu Qianqian appeared in a blue outfit, beautiful enough to make the heart tremble. "Chu Yang, it is you." Wu Qianqian looked at Chu Yang with a troubled gaze. Even in her dreams, she would never imagine Chu Yang would suddenly appear at Iron Cloud Citadel. Moreover, he even had Prince Bhutan's attention. When Tai Bhutan asked her, Wu Qianqian could not believe that the Princess Chu Yang was the same Chu Yang she met at Purple Bamboo Garden. Wu Qianqian assumed it was someone similar, or just someone with the same name. Surely, somewhere out there is a heroic youth also named Chu Yang. Even though Chu Yang of Purple Bamboo Garden was quick-witted, his cultivation was too low. He was not worthy of the prince's attention. However, now that this familiar face appeared in front of her, there were no longer any doubt. "Elder Martial Sister Wu, why have you come here?" Chu Yang asked, a little surprised. "What? I can't come?" As Wu Qianqian spoke, her face slightly reddened. She remembered the words Du Shi King said to the prince, "This youth's life is really pitiful. He loves his martial sister, but his elder martial brother wanted to take his love with force. In an emotional moment, he accidentally killed his elder martial brother. What a waste of a talent." Oh, his martial sister seemed to be the daughter of the leader of Beyond the Heavens sect. Wu Qianqian's face felt as if it was burning when her thoughts reached this point. Daughter of the leader of Beyond the Heavens sect? My father only has me for a daughter. Can it be that Chu Yang likes me? But this is all too sudden. "Ah, you can come. You can come. Of course, you can come." Chu Yang scratched his head and took a step back. "Elder martial sister, please come in. You are no longer a disciple of Beyond the Heavens sect. My father has sent out notice that you are expelled from the sect to everyone. Therefore, you should not call me Elder Martial Sister anymore. I cannot afford such a title." Wu Qianqian felt a little pity. Why was Chu Yang expelled from the sect for such a wretched reason? On the other hand, Wu Qianqian used these words to create distance between them, to avoid Chu Yang using their old connection to cling onto her. This was Iron Cloud Citadel. If something were to happen, Chu Yang would be fine, but she would cause damage to Beyond the Heavens sect's name. "Ah, I should call you little sister." Chu Yang tapped his head a few times. "But you seem to be older than me. Should I call you elder sister Qianqian?" Wu Qianqian's face turned pink. She scolded, "Stop being a smarty pants. Follow me quickly." "Follow older sister? The prince has sent me to invite you. I really can't see what's so great about you that the prince specified your name and wanted to see you. Wu Qian glared at him. If it was just him specifying my name wanting to meet me, I would not go. Chu Yang laughed, but since older sister came to especially invite me, I'll go. Meet and invite were two quite different things. Tai Butan's words reflected his attitude. DLN, Tai Butan used a polite invitation instead of commanding Chu Yang to meet him. Chu Yang was successful in setting up his base of power, as well as layers upon layers of tactics to show off to Tai Butan. First, there was his sharp gaze and agile movements. Upon that, there were Du Shi King's endless praises and the irresistible heavenly armament pavilion. And now, there was the addition of Tai Longcheng's referral. Upon reflecting over everything, Tai Longcheng would, of course, tell Tai Butan about all of it. Chu Yang had no doubt about this. Tai Longcheng's description of Chu Yang would affirm another thing. Chu Yang's conjectures and intelligence were unparalleled, that his judgments in worldly events were accurate and his understanding of Daewoo King Ru was profound. Everything was related to the survival of Iron Cloud Nation and the outcome of the war between Tai Butan and Daewoo King Ru. If Tai Butan did not ask to meet him, that would be the strange thing. After Chu Yang left beyond the Heavens sect, he joined Du Shi King's group. All his planning and arranging was for this day, and this day was finally here. In this key moment, Chu Yang naturally would not pass up the chance to raise his status. It was the prince who sent me to invite you, okay? Wu Qian continued angrily. The prince knows that I know you. That's why he especially sent me here. He also sent 99 of his bodyguards. The carriage in front is the one used by the prince. He even sent 16 armored riders as an extra precaution. These are all formalities reserved for national guests. These past few years, no one had received such a welcome in Iron Cloud Nation. Oh? Chu Yang could not help being startled. Even though he was sure that Tai Butan would send people to invite him, such ceremonious welcoming like this was entirely unexpected. Big Boss Chu swayed back and forth as he sat in an extremely extravagant carriage. In the front, there were 8 golden armored riders valiantly leading the way, each one fearless as they sat on horses white as snow and without a strand of hair out of place. DLN, the horse's hair, but I'm sure the rider's hair were neat, too. As for the rest, there were 2 golden armored riders on either side of the carriage and 4 golden armored riders behind the carriage. In addition, there were 99 silver armored soldiers. Their stature was as straight as statues. Their formation was so orderly that at any angle, one could see a straight marching line with each movement smooth and in perfect unity. The soldiers neatly marched. Their figures were like statues, their gazes were unwavering, and their lines were glorious. Everything worked together to form a scene so magnificent it made people's hearts trembled. Chu Yang slightly squinted his eyes, trying to give a calm appearance, as if he was not paying attention to the whole scene in front of his eyes. He sat straight in a stately manner. However, in his mind, he was screaming, "Great ancestors, this is so grand. Once everything is over, I am going to create a team like this. No matter where I go, I want them to put on the same ceremony." This is truly a distinctive style. Even though he felt powerful, Chu Yang still let the curtains in the carriage down. If Chu Yang showed his face to the outside now, Daewoo King Ru would probably know that the person invited by Tai Butan was him. It would not be a good thing. Safety above all else. Thank you, Senior Chu, for coming. I am really grateful. Please sit. Tai Butan was refined, draped in an outfit white as snow. He smiled and greeted Chu Yang warmly. Chu Yang was a little surprised when he realized that the place Tai Butan met him was Butan Pavilion. On the way there, he did not see another shadow, as if this meeting was extremely secret. DLN, it really doesn't make sense to me either. I am sure everyone noticed the shiny marching band. Their meeting place was a small lake behind Butan Pavilion. In the middle of the lake, there was a small island with a little gazebo. The guards brought Chu Yang to the gazebo and immediately withdrew. Chu Yang watched Tai Butan, who had a calm and quiet air. He was even a little aloof. The courtesy that Tai Butan showed Chu Yang had made him feel warm for a moment. But now it had completely disappeared. If it was some green boy of the same age, he would have surely cried tears of gratitude and be loyal to the prince for the rest of his life. But Chu Yang was a monster that lived 2 lifetimes, so he kept calm. Being able to impress him for just a little bit, Tian was pretty good already. "Your Highness, what orders do you have for me?" Chu Yang asked leisurely. "I dare not say orders. Senior Chu is talented. I am sure you know why I want to meet with you today." Tian smiled gently. "This peasant is ignorant. I still don't understand the prince's intentions." Tian sighed and stood up. He clasped his hands behind his back and turned to look at the calm lake surface. He lightly opened his mouth and said, "Senior Chu came from a sect in Jianghu. Surely you understand the current views of the world. The royal courts and Jianghu might be clearly divided, but, in principle, the two have the same root and are not separated from each other. If the royal court is a circle of prevailing power that envelopes everything, then Jianghu is a different circle of power, just slightly weaker." Tian quietly said, "In other words, Jianghu is a secondary force, capable of assisting the royal court's power at key periods. For example, when the people fall into hard times, a hero would rise up and rally the people, thus creating a new center of power. New countries are started by Jianghu, or they might be depending on some power from the royal court, but the dominant force is still from Jianghu. After some changes, these people would accumulate their own power, their own territory and their own laws. The final result of such success is them becoming the leader of the royal court." Chu Yang thought carefully and finally nodded. "What your highness said is true." He thought about how things changed over the past few thousand years. After unexpected changes, numerous countries fell and many new ones rose by that path. Those new countries were indeed started by people of Jianghu. Even though a great majority failed and were destroyed, many also succeeded. Saying that the royal court was an evolved form of Jianghu was not necessarily wrong. My ancestors were a big family in Jianghu. They were called East Mountains Tai family. Before we entered the royal court, we did rule over a whole region. Without turning back, Tian continued to speak slowly, but once a force from Jianghu becomes involved with the political arena of the royal court, it has to follow the rules of the royal court. The management methods of Jianghu might be fine for ruling over a family or even a people in one region, but they cannot be used to rule a nation. This is Jianghu's limitation. There comes a time when you have to decide to get rid of something in exchange for something new. That something you have to get rid of is usually good people. In Jianghu, all are brothers. In the royal court, it's emperor and subject. If the subject still sees the emperor as a brother, then the situation of brothers killing each other would be bound to happen. DLN, killing for power because of a lack of clear divide. In history, it has always been so. If there are no more rabbits, then the dog goes in the pot. If there are no more birds, then you break the bow. If there are no more shields and swords, then get rid of the cavalry. If the emperor and subject relation thrives, then get rid of the brotherly relation. DLN, get rid of the unnecessary stuff. Such a method may be ruthless, but they are necessary. Those who spend their days lamenting about this method are all failures. To rule a nation, you have to remain indifferent to these things. Moreover, you must be willing to accept the ridicules of history. Once you are capable of carrying these burdens, then you are suited to be a leader of a nation. You cannot lead a nation with your heart or brotherly love, but with rules. This is the biggest difference between the royal court and Jianghu. Chu Yang frowned as he thought about these words. He was wondering why Tian was saying these things to him. So people say emperors are ruthless? Tian concluded, because if an emperor uses his heart, he would not be able to rule a nation. Everyone knows that brothers are valuable and reliable, but once a brother is praised and eclipses the leader, he must be put down. Even if this brother is faithful, it has to done to fortify power. An emperor lives in constant torment. Their days are filled with ridicules and their nights are filled with agonizing tears. But that price is fair, for stability of the kingdom and for peace in the world. Tian turned his head and looked at Chu Yang. Senior Chu has no desires for the royal court. Senior Chu came to Iron Cloud as a person of Jianghu, but Senior Chu wants to borrow the strength of Iron Cloud to topple Daiwu King Ru. Tian took a deep breath and said slowly, this is Senior Chu's main purpose. Senior Chu does not want to have a subject, rule a relationship with Bhutan. You want to work with Bhutan as brothers. After everything is done, Senior Chu wants to return to Jianghu. These are Senior Chu's thoughts. Senior Chu is a Jianghu person to the core. This Jianghu pride is as high as a mountain, so Senior Chu would never be content under anyone's command, and certainly not under anyone's control. He smiled, showing a trace of sadness, and slowly asked, Senior Chu, is Bhutan correct? Chu Yang was terrified as he looked at Tai Bhutan. Even though his eyes remained calm as if his mind was completely innocent, he was shocked. This was Tai Bhutan's first conversation with Chu Yang, but he saw right through Chu Yang's thoughts. Such a mind made Chu Yang see the person in front of him in a different light. Your Highness is correct. Chu Yang said casually, that is exactly how I feel. Ha ha. Tai Bhutan laughed bitterly. This is our first meeting. I wanted to make this issue clear, because if Senior Chu continues to work with this mentality, then there will surely be contradictions with Bhutan. And these contradictions between the royal court and Jianghu are irreconcilable. Your Highness worries too much. Chu Yang said sincerely, what Your Highness worries about is the contradictions that will rise after peace is restored. I have never been interested in the power of the royal court. Once Daewoo King Ru is toppled, you will never have to see Chu Yang again. I know that this is, of course, Senior Chu's decision. Tai Bhutan sighed. But I am also sure that, when that time comes, many territories of Iron Cloud would not be maintained with Senior Chu gone. The moment Senior Chu leaves, Iron Cloud Nation would fall into turmoil. Your Highness, may I ask how old you are? Chu Yang asked. I have wasted 19 years already. Tai Bhutan's eyes suddenly showed a melancholy and lost look. Your Highness has been immersed too deep in the tactics and strategies of the royal court. Chu Yang said sharply, with you, everything has to be measured by the royal court, has to be thought over before a choice is made, has to be weighted by the benefits, and has to be seen as a part of a greater picture. All of these things are too tiring and unnecessary. Your Highness worries too much, but forgets one thing. This one thing must be measured and considered. It is life or death, victory or failure that is about to come. Chu Yang continued coldly, currently, Iron Cloud Nation is like a candle in the wind, it could go out at any moment. Great Zhao has 10 times the national strength of Iron Cloud Nation. It has daring soldiers and strong leaders. Great Zhao Nation also has 10 great Dragon Tiger generals, each one with 1,000 victories under their belts. Daewoo King Ru is especially talented, Great Zhao's best resource. He is an incredible tactician, with an icy heart and an ambition to rule the continent. Iron Cloud could fall at any time. 600 million people at the border of life and death, facing such enormous danger, and Your Highness could only think about the peaceful future. Chu Yang sneered, I did not know Your Highness is that confident, or perhaps arrogant is the right word. If Your Highness keeps holding on to the mentality that you could fight with Daewoo King Ru, Chu Yang might as well retire to the wilderness and just not care about any of this. Tai Bhutan's countenance changed. He looked at Chu Yang for a while, then suddenly tilted his body and bowed. Senior Chu's words are true. Bhutan is honored to learn from you. Currently, we should not talk about that future. In this meeting, the two people had sparred with each other, and Chu Yang currently seemed to have the upper hand. Tai Bhutan went through all the trouble of saying those things to eliminate Chu Yang's conviction to Jianghu and make Chu Yang willingly become one of his subjects. Even though there were some truths in what he said, they were somewhat over-exaggerated and biased. Chu Yang's counterattack was proof that his decision would not change. Moreover, he pointed out the errors of Tai Bhutan's thoughts. His words were naturally overstated, not giving Tai Bhutan any room for rebuttal. Chu Yang also knew that Tai Bhutan was suffering under great pressure from Daewoo King Ru. How could Tai Bhutan not think about life and death, victory and failure? If anything, Tai Bhutan probably thought about this every day. Chu Yang's counterattack simply made use of the wordings, not Tai Bhutan's actual thoughts. Tai Bhutan used the whole world to pressure Chu Yang. Chu Yang immediately countered with Daewoo King Ru as well as the 600 million people of Iron Cloud Nation for good measure. Both somewhat overstated their points. Both also understood each other's intentions. They just did not say them outright, because such directness would be too confrontational. At that time, Taibu Tan's loss would not be minimal, and Chu Yang's purpose would be difficult to achieve. Therefore, the two sides naturally formed a delicate balance. Under pressure from Chu Yang's last statement, Taibu Tan had to take a step back and admit defeat in this battle of wits. However, it helped him prove that he was a person capable of accepting the ideas of others. Senior Chu, your words are definitely as sharp as a knife. Taibu Tan smiled. Your Highness also had a solid defense. Chu Yang smiled likewise. Senior Chu has wasted much thoughts on your journey to Iron Cloud. First, your appearance was like a bolt of lightning, giving me quite a shock. At that time, I immediately wanted to recruit your talent. After that, you had saintly physician Du's help in recommending you, taking advantage of my urgent need for talents. Taibu Tan sighed and smiled. After the completion of all this, Senior Chu did not even bother to come and see me. Instead, you used Heavenly Armament Pavilion as a force that Iron Cloud Nation could not resist. Because of that, Senior Chu's position went up another level. Moreover, it created a strong impression at the highest level of Iron Cloud Nation's royal court. So much so that Royal Uncle, himself, went to see you. From there, you showcased your strength and great insights on worldly matters. Finally, Senior Chu simply sat at Heavenly Armament Pavilion and waited for my invitation. Step by step, everything happened just as Senior Chu planned, not one thing out of place. DLN, I let you win. Now, gotcha. I generally don't like being led by the nose by another like that. However, this time I had no other choice but to act according to Senior Chu's plans. While I am taking a loss, it's still a happy one. Senior Chu made such an all-encompassing move. From a no-name with just the shirt on your back, you made such a position for yourself with your own bare hands. Moreover, your tactics clearly stated that Senior Chu would be no one's subject. You had given me no choice but to collaborate with you on our national military affairs. Taibu Tan reluctantly smiled. Senior Chu was able to create such a circumstance alone. Clever, precise planning, seasoned grasp of the situation. You really made me admire you greatly. The two words talented person are truly suited for Senior Chu. Chu Yang squinted and laughed. Such words of praise, I am always happy to receive them. The more the better. The negotiation period was now over. Plus, Taibu Tan had already conceded, so Chu Yang naturally wanted to create a friendlier atmosphere. Chu Yang's comment caught Taibu Tan by surprise. He was not able to hold back a giggle. And as if remembering something, he hastily wiped the edge of his mouth and smiled. Senior Chu is really funny. Within this moment, Chu Yang shivered. He almost wanted to run away. The prince. What prince? Can a woman be called a prince? More like a princess. Taibu Tan was clearly a man, but he just acted 100% girly. That smile, those eyes. Chu Yang's eyes widened as the edge of mouth twitched. Oh heavens. You let me go against fate, go against history. But now you want me to collaborate with this gay guy? Chu Yang convulsed internally. He thought to himself, no wonder this guy cultivated icy heart jade bone saintly technique. If a gay guy like that did not cultivate it, that would be a waste. Once Taibu Tan finished pretending to wipe his mouth and once again emitted an all-encompassing aura, Chu Yang felt his hair stood on ends. The whole world was spinning. Senior Chu? Senior Chu? Taibu Tan was concerned when he saw Chu Yang in his petrified condition. Chu Yang came to. Sweat was pouring down his forehead. He was thinking about having to collaborate with such a person for at least 2 more years. Suddenly, Chu Yang felt his future was dark and his life was full of tragedies. Senior Chu, with the current state of Iron Cloud Nation, if Senior Chu was in charge, where would you begin? Taibu Tan smiled and asked seriously, as if he did not notice Chu Yang's mood changes. Yes, this. I need a moment to think about it. Chu Yang put one hand on his forehead, pretending to be deep in thought. In truth, he did not need to think about it at all. It was just that previous scene had caused him to be too shaken up. If you want to eliminate the foreign invasion, you need to first deal with internal pacification. Chu Yang placed all of his efforts into activating 9 Tribulations Transcending the 9 Heavens technique to suppress the troublesome thoughts. If you want to eliminate the foreign invasion, You need to first deal with internal pacification. Tai Butan could not help but shiver when he heard these words. Why did these words sound so familiar? The first time he heard these words, there was a great change in the royal court. The second time he heard them, 3 million soldiers became dried bones in the battlefield. The third time he heard them was when the royal court was convening. At that time, royal uncle Tai Longcheng raised his saber and sorted out the officials all at once, creating a river of blood. Today, Chu Yang came here, and his first priority was these words. Could there be another period of wind and rain of blood? Yes, that is right. Tai Butan smiled and said, but the problem is, the foreign invasion might be in the open, but internal turmoil is hidden. They just need to be screened. Chu Yang smiled confidently. What if I give Senior Chu total control of this process? Tai Butan smiled as he formally submitted a collaboration request. Still not enough. Chu Yang shook his head. Not enough? I hear that your highness created a Butan pavilion? Chu Yang asked casually, if we are to collaborate, we should trust each other. I want Butan pavilion. Tai Butan looked at him coldly. His cold gaze continued for a while as he remained motionless. After a long time, Tai Butan stood up. He clasped his hands behind his back and slowly walked to the gazebo's railing. His eyes followed the twinkling water in the afternoon light. A gentle wind glided over the lake and made his white robe flutter. Before I was 11, I was an innocent child, loved by my father and mother. As for my 6 older sisters, they treated me like a treasure. I was carefree. The world was beautiful. At this moment, Tai Butan's back was facing Chu Yang. His eyes were starting to become hazy, but his voice was just as calm as before. When I was born, my father was really sad. He banned all talks of my birth. Back then, I did not understand why. One year, father put on his golden armor and went to war. In my eyes, he looked like a god of war, unbreakable, undefeatable. But in less than half a year, my world crashed down. My father was carried home, dying. When my mother came to take care of him, he suddenly became angry and killed her with his sword. He single-handedly killed his beloved wife. 2 streams of tears rolled down Tai Butan's cheeks. Chu Yang looked up in surprise. He was startled by what he just heard. Why did this emperor of Iron Cloud Nation kill his wife? After that, father suddenly became lucid. He ordered all of my 6 sisters and their families killed. Then he ordered second uncle and his troops from the battlefield to come back and attack the palace, killing everyone. That day, inside of the imperial city, blood formed a river. Everyone thought second uncle was usurping the throne. It was not until later that they found out it was not the case. After that, father held my hand, and said these words before falling into a coma. Tai Butan stood erect, but his quiet voice was trembling. He continued with a firm but pained voice, from now on you are called Tai Butan. The sky, Tan, of Iron Cloud Nation has collapsed, but I hope you could help repair, it. You need to always remember, to rule a nation, you have to be cruel. If you have the cruelty to kill the enemies, you also must have the cruelty to kill yourself. After he finished talking, father held second uncle's hand and simply said I am entrusting him to you. And father immediately became unconscious. Chu Yang frowned and silently thought, this story of Tai Butan has many unclear details. But one thing was for sure, when the emperor killed his wife and daughters, his mind was lucid. People say fierce tigers do not eat their young. Why did he have to do that? Chu Yang had the feeling that there was some great secret in this whole story. Tai Butan took a deep breath and continued. I hated father, hated him for killing all of my family. Second uncle was extremely strict with me. He announced to everyone that I was the Prince of Iron Cloud, and once I grew up, I would be Iron Cloud's ruler. And from that time on, second uncle invited countless masters to teach me about many things. Each day, there were at least 10 masters waiting for me. Each day, I could only sleep for an hour. Even when I am eating and drinking, there was someone in front of me, teaching me. Whenever I slacked off a bit, second uncle would give me a beating. At that time, out of 365 days, there were at least 300 days when I was black and blue. Second uncle's strictness toward me surpassed that of the most difficult teacher in the world. Tai Butan said lightly, I went to see father often. Even though he had moments where he was awake, he would insist on killing himself at those times. And after he was prevented from doing so, he would quietly cry. Year after year, he would hold on to my mother and sister's name plaques with tears running down his face. He usually cried until he became unconscious. His body also became weaker by the day. I thought he was regretting his actions, but I later realized that I was mistaken. Tibutan's voice was very soft, as if he was in a dream. At the time, I asked myself, if he was the one who killed my mother and sisters, why would he cry? Is he miserable? He deserves to be miserable. Even now, I still hate him. However, after many years, especially when I started to understand this situation, I found it more difficult to hate him. Tibutan continued to clasp his hands behind his back as tears ran down his cheeks. His eyes reflected conflicting feelings. It was not until these past few years that I realized my father's heart is filled with agony. As a father, the sufferings he has to bear. As a man, the responsibilities he has to take, especially as an emperor, the burdens he has to endure are even more so. Tibutan took a deep breath. As for me, I was always under second uncle's unrelenting pressure to learn everything. There were countless times when I had to learn so much that I could not bear it and just cried. I continued to cry like that, and second uncle would use the whip or the fist to get me back to my senses. I kept going like that. As the days went by, I had to learn not just philosophy, but mental fortification, tactics, martial arts, and ruling strategies. Second uncle carved those words father said to me on my table, hung them on my bedroom wall, and many other places that I went to. I was forced to recite these words before every meal. Second uncle fought in the battlefield and planned strategies. He was the deciding factor in victory or defeat. At the same time, he held control of the entire nation. During that time, he was so busy he could barely open his eyes. He did not even have time to talk to me. However, he always saved time to talk to my teachers about what I learned, and afterward, he would give me a beating, as if he would never be satisfied with me. In the end, I did not dare to slack off anymore. There was a gulping sound from Tibutan's throat like he swallowed something. He continued, I hated father, and I hated second uncle even more. But one day, I accidentally saw second uncle using dark flower juice to dye his hair. At the time, he was only 32 years old. Second uncle was extremely valiant. In Ironcloud, he was famous for being handsome. But since father became ill, white hair began to appear on his head, until there was more white than black. Therefore, second uncle had to periodically dye his hair. At the time I looked down on second uncle. What kind of man worried about his looks and dyed his hair? Later, I realized, because father was sick and I was still young, second uncle alone bore the weight of Ironcloud Nation. His good health was Ironcloud Nation's greatest hope. If the soldiers found out that his head was full of white hair, it would be an immeasurable shock to the military. Every day, second uncle was either on the battlefield or training soldiers. He looked powerful. He only needed to yell once and the hearts of hundreds of thousands of soldiers trembled. But every night when he came home, he could not even lift his legs. Even talking was difficult. His hands shook while he ate. He was a revered martial artist at the time. But each day he was exhausted to that point. After I understood father and second uncle's suffering, I began to put all of my efforts into learning. Each time he came home from a battle campaign against Daewoo King Ru, he would go over them with me a few dozen times. About 3 years ago, I finally started to grasp everything and began my life as a true prince. That's when I discovered that all the decisions second uncle made before were in my name. All of Ironcloud Nation, even the whole world, knew that there was a heaven-born ruler in Ironcloud. All of Ironcloud was filled with hope. However, no one knew how such a heaven-born ruler came into being. How could there be such a thing as a heaven-born ruler? How many people know that the path of a ruler is full of cruelty? Tibutan's voice became sorrowful and cynical. When I first took control, nothing was done well. Luckily, there was second uncle. He was my angel. Every day he stood by me when the royal court convened. Anyone who disrespected or questioned my authority, he immediately had them dragged out and beheaded. Second uncle became even worse than tyrants, but after I had a firm grip on Ironcloud, second uncle did not bother to get involved in royal court affairs any longer. I heard that after he continually watched over me for 3 months, he went home and said to second aunt, "I am relieved." Afterward, second uncle immediately went to sleep for 3 days straight, giving everyone at home a fright. Tai Butan sighed and continued. The military and politics of Iron Cloud were finally on the right track. I then founded Butan Pavilion to gather heroes. I have always helped to find someone to help me carry some of this weight. For the stability of Iron Cloud, for the livelihood of 600 million people, the pain that those of us at the top have paid with is unimaginable. I am too tired. Second uncle is too tired. Tai Butan said lightly. His tone was really casual, but Chu Yang could hear the fatigue hidden in it. Second uncle had recommended you to me. Tai Butan still did not turn around, but his voice was firm. I trust my uncle's judgments, so I will trust you. You need Butan Pavilion. I can comply. However, you can only get the position of adjunct minister. I cannot directly give you a higher position than this. I am sure you can understand. Only when you have earned the respect of everyone, can I give you full access of Butan Pavilion. If there is mistrust, then there is no working together. If we're already working together, then I will trust you. Tai Butan finished and walked out without turning back. He glided on the water surface like a cloud in the wind. He gently touched the water a few times and created little ripples on the surface of the lake. After that he disappeared from Chu Yang's view. He did not turn around because he did not want Chu Yang to see the tears that covered his face. Chu Yang slowly sat down and was silent for a long time. He was still digesting Tai Butan's words. They were truly sincere, honest and moving. Chu Yang did think that Tai Butan's motive in telling him these things was to win him over, so he could lay down his life for Tai Butan. Chu Yang was someone who was seasoned with 2 lifetimes of experience. In his previous life, while Chu Yang was in upper 3 heavens, he inadvertently learned Deep Spirit Principle. Now was the perfect time to use it to carefully evaluate everything that was said. Deep Spirit Principle was a really strange technique. It did not have any power, but could detect all falsehoods. This technique was a legacy of the Heavenly 3-Star Clan. It ensured that the person with this technique would not be deceived by anyone. But under the analysis of Deep Spirit Principle, Chu Yang discovered that all of Tai Butan's words were true. In his words, there were many holes and many things that could not be explained. But that was the strangest part. Anyone would have seen these holes in Tai Butan's words, but his words were 100% true. For example, why did the Emperor of Iron Cloud, after his great injury, kill his wife? Why did he kill his 6 daughters and their families? Why did he order a blood purge on the royal court? All these things had no clear explanations, but they were the truth. Chu Yang also did not know what had happened. Even after he reviewed the history of his previous life, he could not figure it out. In any case, Tai Butan died too early in his previous life, before Chu Yang had a chance to help. This whole thing was filled with layers of fog. Chu Yang felt that there was some great hidden secret, as forceful as a mountain and as burdensome as an ocean. Chu Yang sat and thought for a long time only to discover that his mind was as foggy as ever. He stopped bothering to give it more thought. The royal family is too complicated. If I want to figure out the mind of an emperor, it's even more so. I tried to guess, but there are really no clues. There's really no more hope on that end. Chu Yang only needed to know that Tai Butan met his conditions for collaboration. In this process, Tai Butan did not even bother to haggle. Of course, this was because Tai Butan was an open-minded person. Plus, Chu Yang was a useful person, and that certainly helped the ruler to be magnanimous. Besides these things, Tai Butan had the mind to take a gamble on this collaboration. However, there was a very important factor that Chu Yang understood full well. It was Icy Heart Jade Bone Saintly technique. This type of technique and Deep Spirit Principle were slightly different but had similar results. Even though Icy Heart Jade Bone Saintly technique was not capable of discovering lies, it helped seeing through people's hearts. This gave Tai Butan an incredible intuition. Tai Butan clearly understood Chu Yang's thoughts. Even though he did not have any solid basis, He absolutely believed that Chu Yang would not harm him or Iron Cloud Nation. Additionally, he was sure that Chu Yang would not abuse his position in Iron Cloud to achieve some dark plot. If he was sure about all these things and Chu Yang's incredible abilities, then Tai Bu-ten would of course give it a try. At this point, he desperately needed someone to help. Carrying the burden all by himself had made him exhausted. He needed someone to share it with, but none of the civil and military officials in court could help, because no matter what, he was a prince and they were just his subjects. Chu Yang's appearance perfectly made up for this deficiency. Even though Chu Yang would never be subjugated under him, it was the exact thing that made Chu Yang, a man of Jianghu with no connections to the court, the best candidate to take charge of Bu-ten Pavilion. With anyone else from the groups of civil and military officials holding a sharp weapon like this Bu-ten Pavilion, Tai Bu-ten would be worried. As for himself, he founded Bu-ten Pavilion in earnest, but did not have enough energy to manage and develop it into something powerful. Therefore, when Tai Bu-ten complied with Chu Yang's request earlier, he had his own reasons as well. Or who knows what other reasons he might have. As for Chu Yang, at this time, he was currently thinking about Tai Bu-ten's childhood. It was truly a tragedy. Even compared to a prince of some normal country, Tai Bu-ten's childhood was many times worse. As Tai Bu-ten said, the path of a ruler was a cruel one. Your heavenly armament pavilion. What to do with it? When Chu Yang met with Tai Bu-ten again, it was already late in the afternoon. He had already recovered his natural composure as he smiled and asked, Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Chu Yang originally wanted to merge Heavenly Armament Pavilion with Bu-ten Pavilion, but when the words reached his mouth, they came out quite differently. Heavenly Armament Pavilion would of course exist independently. However, it cannot remain as it currently is, it's too wasteful. Your Highness, my Heavenly Armament Pavilion will be moved to Emerald Flow Lake, is that okay? Emerald Flow Lake was a small lake inside of Iron Cloud Citadel. It was about 10 blocks from Iron Cloud Inner City, but they were separated by a dense area of buildings, so it seemed really far away. This was a favorite area for people to go for a stroll. Emerald Flow Lake, not a problem. Tai Bu-ten readily agreed, I will immediately arrange for this. Tai Bu-ten thought the wasteful part Chu Yang was referring to was those divine weapons. He did not know that Chu Yang was in fact referring to Gadu Crossing. Such a powerful expert with limitless potential left to sit around idly? That was really wasteful. Chu Yang's countenance remained unchanged, but he was overjoyed on the inside. Only he knew that Emerald Flow Lake was not just a good place for a stroll. In his previous life, this was where he found the second Nine Tribulations Sword fragment. Now he could directly take over this area, then all he would have to do is wait until his cultivation was high enough to break the seal of the second Nine Tribulations Sword fragment. And finally, he could take it without anyone knowing. Nine Tribulations Sword, second fragment. Chu Yang was burning with excitement. The two boarded a carriage and went forth. This carriage was completely covered without any openings. If someone from the outside were to look, they would not expect that the prince was sitting in this ordinary-looking carriage. Though the inside of the carriage was quite spacious, the two were sitting not too far from each other. Chu Yang could smell a faint fragrance that seemed to be drifting in the air. He could not help but snort. Internally, he was annoyed. How can a man wear perfume? Tai Bu-ten seemed to have realized something was amiss. So he started to distract Chu Yang with a rambling conversation about some irrelevant topics. Tai Bu-ten's education was truly profound. From heaven to earth, from legends to current famous figures, he could talk about them all. Moreover, regardless of whatever the topic was, he seemed to have some insightful comment about each one. In terms of his education, Chu Yang trailed behind Tai Bu-ten by a great distance. The only thing he could do was listen. Time slowly passed and Chu Yang became more and more engrossed in Tai Bu-ten's words. He did not notice the fragrance in the carriage anymore. The carriage stopped. The two got off the carriage and went into a large manor. This is Bu-ten Pavilion's headquarters, Tai Bu-ten said softly as he walked. Chu Yang replied with a no, feeling really surprised. For anyone who heard of the three words Bu-ten Pavilion, a grand building would come to mind. However, It turned out to be just an ordinary one-story building. So that place with the plaque Bhutan Pavilion and the small lake that Tai Bhutan had his first discussion with me, it was just a cover. To Chu Yang, that place felt more appropriate for the 3 words Bhutan Pavilion. This place was a little too ordinary. Walking into the building, Tai Bhutan brought Chu Yang straight into the main hall without stopping. There were a few people there discussing something. When they saw Tai Bhutan entering, they immediately stood up and greeted him. This person is Chu Yang, Senior Chu. Tai Bhutan introduced. From today on, Senior Chu is a person of our Bhutan Pavilion. His temporary position is Adjunct Minister of Bhutan Pavilion. From now on, Senior Chu will be participating in all of Bhutan Pavilion's matters, from planning to decision-making. In the room, all 5 faces changed at once. Adjunct Minister, this was no ordinary position. If the word adjunct was left out, then he was Bhutan Pavilion's minister. Before this, the minister position belonged to Tai Bhutan. This position was even higher than Pavilion Lord. Could it be that this youth is the future minister of Bhutan Pavilion? They were all extremely surprised. Tai Bhutan had brought a youth in to take over this important minister position. Currently, the Pavilion Lord and his deputy were also present in this room. The other 3 people were all martial grade masters. How could they just tolerate a youth being above them? This is Bhutan Pavilion's Lord, Icy Soul revered saber artist, Cheng Zhang. This is his deputy, shooting star revered martial artist, Chen Yutong. Tai Bhutan introduced each person to Chu Yang. All 5 faces managed to smile and came up to greet him one by one. Icy Soul revered saber artist Cheng Zhang seemed to be about 60. He had grey hair and a thin body that seemed capable of getting blown away with a strong gust of wind. As for Chen Yutong, he was a large man with a strong build. He was about 45 or 46 years old with a crude face. They both looked and evaluated Chu Yang with their gazes. In their smiles, there were traces of alienation. After the brief introduction, Tai Bhutan brought Chu Yang into an inner room. This was a study filled with documents lying in piles and piles. This is where Bhutan Pavilion keeps all of the documents on all of Iron Cloud Nation's personnel. Each one has carefully accounted details from great to small. All the events that happened in their lives, as well as things such as personal abilities or skills, are all written down. You can look. Normally, a person with cultivation level below Martial Master would not be allowed to join Bhutan Pavilion. Someone with unclear background would not be able to join either. Tai Bhutan slowly continued, at present, Bhutan Pavilion has a total of 87 people. Within this group there are 1 revered saber artist, 5 revered martial artists, and 13 martial grade masters. The rest are martial masters of grade 4 and up. This strength is weak. Too weak. Chu Yang shook his head. Such strength in a sect would be incredibly powerful, but placed in a war between 2 large nations, it was too little. Compared to Daewoo King Ru's Golden Horse Riders Department, this strength was not enough. In fact, it did not even earn the right to compare to Golden Horse Riders Department. Golden Horse Riders Department was already well established with about 30,000 people. Even if you didn't count the support staff, the number of experts at the level of Martial Master and above were about 20,000. Such a horrific number. How could a newcomer like Bhutan Pavilion compare? Until now, Bhutan Pavilion, with its status as my personal force, only dealt with strategies. Our few assassination attempts have all ended in failure. Instead of success, we lost many people. Tai Bhutan said slowly, because of this, I dare not develop it any further. Chu Yang lightly nodded. Even though Tai Bhutan did not say it outright, Chu Yang heard, there are spies in Bhutan Pavilion. As long as there were spies, unknown ones, no matter how rigorously the assassination attempts were planned, they would still be a joke. It was no different than sending your subordinates straight into the hands of the enemies. This is the first problem you have to solve. Tai Bhutan said casually. Not a problem. Chu Yang glanced at the piles of documents and said decisively, the second problem is that our Iron Cloud has countless spies sent by Daewoo King Ru since so many years ago, and I am guessing many of them currently hold high positions on both the civil and military sides. Tai Bhutan smiled. Senior Chu, you once said, if you want to eliminate the foreign invasion, you need to first deal with internal pacification. Once you have successfully completed your first task in cleaning out Bhutan Pavilion, this second task will be given to you as well. Your final task would be to fight with the two outside forces. But the stabilization of the country comes first. I don't mind if you have to kill a lot of people. In fact, to maintain stability, you can kill all the people here if it must be done. Tai Bhutan smiled, but there are some whose deaths would cause great turbulence in the world. Chu Yang smiled mysteriously. He understood Tai Bhutan's meaning. In other words, if you cannot even complete the first task, then you should just leave. Don't even bother thinking about the second or third. As for what he called stabilization, it was not something he said for the moment, but the one thing that Iron Cloud needed most right now. Currently, stability was much more important to Iron Cloud than the rapid development of strength. This had also been Tai Bhutan's biggest headache for a very long time. Senior Chu, Bhutan Pavilion will have to depend on you from now on. As Tai Bhutan walked out the door, he turned his head back and smiled. Bhutan Pavilion, haha. Your Highness wants me to patch up the sky starting right now? Chu Yang laughed. Since Senior Chu sincerely wants to collaborate, then you should prove your ability. Divine weapons are just accessories after all. No matter how much you show them off, they're only as good as empty ranting. Tai Bhutan smiled. Bhutan Pavilion will be your test. Bhutan Pavilion has been in existence for 3 years, yet it is still not quite developed. Tai Bhutan's smile was full of hidden meanings as he waltzed out. From beginning to end, Tai Bhutan only introduced Chu Yang and did not say any words of support. He did this so Chu Yang would have to use his own abilities to fortify his position, consolidate Bhutan Pavilion, clean out the place, and finally, gain complete control. After this process was done, then it could be considered that he had completed his first task in his collaboration with Tai Bhutan. Chu Yang was by himself with his martial warrior status. If he wanted to gain control of all of Bhutan Pavilion, he needed to at least have the strength of a martial master. Moreover, he also needed their complete respect to establish his authority. This was an almost impossible task. However, Chu Yang could no longer go back. He was already here. He wanted respect. Tai Bhutan gave him that. He wanted attention. Tai Bhutan gave him that. His initial plan to create an important status for himself was completely successful. In fact, when he asked for the one thing that was most important to Tai Bhutan, Bhutan Pavilion, Tai Bhutan also gave him that. Even though this Tai Bhutan was a little girly and a little feminine in Chu Yang's eyes, he gave Chu Yang the trust he wanted without reservations. Everything that Chu Yang had wanted for his first step in Iron Cloud, he had achieved. Now was the time for him to show his abilities. If he could not earn the respect of the people in Bhutan Pavilion, then he would prove that he was not worthy of Tai Bhutan's trust. The current situation was essentially Chu Yang and Tai Bhutan's collaboration to push Chu Yang to a point where he could no longer turn back. Tai Bhutan left a long time ago, but Chu Yang was still engrossed in the endless documents. He carefully analyzed each line. These documents were just plain texts, and these texts were not exactly accurate compared to reality. But Chu Yang was looking for tiny bits of truths or flaws in these fuzzy reports. From there, he would decide on the next step, picking through a lot of people who had already been through a rigorous screening process. Moreover, he was picking based on only what was written. The difficulty of this process was immense. However, Chu Yang could only start with this for now, because he currently had no spies of his own. He could only rely on his own efforts. Chu Yang wholeheartedly believed that any organizations would have cracks where outsiders could enter. In Daewoo King Ru's plans then, this place of Tai Bhutan's must have had some flaws. Even the staff responsible for screening people to enter Bhutan Pavilion might not have been loyal to Tai Bhutan. Chu Yang used up the afternoon to carefully go through the files of the 87 people in Bhutan Pavilion. Within this short time period, he memorized them all. He closed his eyes and all 87 individuals' files ran through his head all at once, without one detail left out. Chu Yang then walked out. Minister. Seeing Chu Yang come out, Icy Soul revered saber artist Cheng Zhang stood up first, and the rest of the people behind him followed. Since the time Chu Yang arrived, There had been an addition of 7 more people. There were now 12 people total. These people looked at Chu Yang with guarded gazes filled with hostility and mistrust, but when they saw him sit on the main seat, they greeted him respectfully. There were a lot of people with cynicism in their eyes, waiting to be entertained by a comedic skit. Official Cheng, from now on we are of the same house. There is no need for ceremony. Chu Yang said casually, making that icy soul-revered saber artist's mouth twitch a few times. You're acting like my superior. No need for ceremony. Moreover, in this statement, Chu Yang used official Cheng and not senior Cheng. He meant to indicate that he was using the rules of the royal court, not that of Jiang Hu. 1 rank higher was enough to crush the people below. Chu Yang's first sentence told Cheng Zheng that even though he was a revered saber artist, this was the royal court, under the prince's command. Even if a weakling student was your superior, you would still have to obey. In Chu Yang's mind, he did look down a little on this revered level expert. Since ancient times, there were many revered level experts who ruled over Jiang Hu, but not many coveted worldly wealth and status. If you abandoned your place in Jianghu and went to work for the royal court, then you are nothing but a court official. Once you gave up that identity, you lowered yourself. You will never truly be a revered level expert again. You could still hold on to the title, but if you have to come face to face with a revered level expert from Jianghu, Cheng Zheng, you don't stand half a chance of winning. Official Cheng, please let everyone from Bhutan Pavilion who is currently in Iron Cloud Citadel know that there will be a gathering early tomorrow morning. Chu Yang said casually, I am a newly instated official and I want to show my authority a little bit. This is pretty standard. I hope official Cheng will wholeheartedly assist me in this matter. Cheng Zheng was stunned. This new adjunct minister is too straightforward. Even if he wanted to show off his authority, did he have to say it outright like that? When Chu Yang came back to Heavenly Armament Pavilion that night, he heard the sound of wind swooshing from the backyard. Of course, Gaduk Singh was practicing his sword art. Chu Yang stood on the steps and watched Gaduk Singh practice, but inside, he was contemplating. This Gaduk Singh, should I bring him out with me? His fighting strength in this Iron Cloud Citadel is that of an expert. Having him with me would greatly help me in solving any problems I might encounter. After all, I am currently only a grade 4 martial warrior. Looking at the flashing sword in the backyard, Chu Yang finally shook his head. It was better that Gaduk Singh did not show himself. Bhutan Pavilion was Bhutan Pavilion, and Gaduk Singh's strength was insurance for the 2 martial brothers in this Iron Cloud Citadel. Keeping an ace card like this hidden, regardless of the situation, was much better than showing it to everyone. Elder brother Chu, you're back. Gaduk Singh was done with his sword practice. His clothes were soaked and his face was pale. He had used up a lot of energy. It looked like he had started to understand revered berserker sword technique. Gaduk Singh was really curious when it came to Chu Yang. Chu Yang is much younger than me, this is sure enough. But I don't understand why every time I talk to Chu Yang, he seems much more mature than I am. Gaduk Singh was sure that Chu Yang was younger than him, but Chu Yang never brought up the age difference between the two. This gave Gaduk Singh a headache. How was he supposed to address him? Should you keep calling me elder brother Gu? Should I keep calling you elder brother Chu? Of course Chu Yang would never talk about age with Gaduk crossing. If it was based on age, would he not be the lower-ranking one? Such a position, he would not be so stupid as to voluntarily enter into one. Gaduk Singh also could not see through Chu Yang's cultivation level. Was this youth a martial great master, or a revered martial artist? Gaduk Singh dared not guess lower, he only guessed higher and higher. If Gaduk Singh found out that Chu Yang was currently just a martial warrior, he probably would collapse on the spot. Elder brother Gu, our Heavenly Armament Pavilion is going to change location soon. Chu Yang said casually, it will be moved to Emerald Flow Lake. As for me, I have agreed with Tai Bhutan in becoming the minister of Bhutan Pavilion. Gaduk Singh wiped his sweat. Clearly, he had no interest in this Bhutan Pavilion. Elder brother Gu, I have this idea. Chu Yang and Gaduk Singh walked side by side as they talked. Given the current situation, we need to have our own forces to get things done. Since Heavenly Armament Pavilion only has the 2 of us, we're spread a little thin. Gaduk Singh's eyes brightened. You mean, Whether it is to protect our lives or to do some great deeds in this troubled world, we need to have an elite team in our hands. Moreover, the middle three heavens that we are aiming for is even more troublesome compared to lower three heavens. It's even more lawless. There is only one rule there: big fish swallow little fish. At the least, saving Miaoling would require strength. Chu Yang continued, there are some things you don't need me to say. The Ge clan has its own successor, and you are only their adopted son. With this fact, even at the peak of Sword Emperor level, your saving Miaoling would be dependent on how the people of the Ge clan felt. Any family clan would place its survival ahead of one person's life. Geduk Singh's face darkened. Everything Chu Yang said was true. Based on their ages, by the time he achieved Sword Emperor, the two Ge young masters would already hold power. Currently, the two were busy fighting for power, so they were not paying attention to this situation. Once Ge Miaoling is freed, everything would change. First, he was an adopted son, not an outsider. Second, his cultivation level of Sword Emperor would make him the most powerful person in the Ge clan. Third, marrying Ge Miaoling would make him the son-in-law of the Ge clan. It would be odd if the two Ge brothers did not guard against him. Our heavenly armament pavilion needs to become more powerful quickly. Chu Yang's gaze became more profound. You will be the first divine weapon of heavenly armament pavilion. Once you have a first, then there will be a second. Geduk Singh's eyes brightened with great interest. How do you want to proceed? The development of heavenly armament pavilion cannot be publicized, it must grow in secret. Chu Yang said as he rubbed his chin. As for the specifics of this development, it will be up to you. I will not deal with that. Additionally, we should temporarily put the weapons of heavenly armament pavilion aside. Once the recruits have sufficient skill, we will give them those. That would be good motivation. Geduk Singh's eyes emitted sharp rays of lights as he nodded repeatedly. Yes, our divine weapons would be an irresistible temptation for any martial artist. The second thing is our heavenly armament pavilion will develop secretly, so we do not necessarily need masters. We should concentrate on those with the potential to advance to such levels. Chu Yang smiled. His eyes were like bright flashes in the dark. In the future, we will not only stay in lower three heavens, but advance to middle three heavens. And then upper three heavens as well. We will kill and fight to our top position. Those we recruit will be part of our team. They will advance with us. From fighting in lower three heavens to bathing in Jianghu blood in middle three heavens. Even when we are in upper three heavens, we will walk arrogantly. Geduk Singh's face was radiant. His breathing had become more rapid. Do you mean we won't work by the rules of others? What we want is to set rules for others to follow. Chu said quietly, regardless if it is lower three heavens or upper three heavens. Good. A bright-eyed Geduk Singh said, since you already have such ambitions, Geduk Singh can't just sit around. Let us two brothers join forces and see. Chu Yang nodded and said deeply, I will leave this to you. In this time period, I need to quickly finish up things at Bhutan Pavilion. Anyway, our mission at this lower three heavens is to defeat Daewoo King Ru. This absolutely cannot be changed. Defeat Daewoo King Ru. Geduk Singh muttered and nodded. He did not know why Chu Yang was so insistent on defeating Daewoo King Ru, but he knew that. Having said it, Chu Yang must have his own reasons. Heavenly Armament Pavilion just opened for a few days, then closed. Geduk Singh already went ahead to Emerald Flow Lake. At this time, his stubborn character clearly showed itself. With Chu Yang's generous financial backing, Geduk Singh played a big hand and surrounded the area around Emerald Flow Lake with a 30 feet tall wall. In a sudden, he took over the entire area. At the time Geduk Singh did this, even Chu Yang did not know. Chu Yang's original plan was to only take over the lake. He did not expect Geduk Singh to directly take not only the entire lake, but also Shadow Hill near it as well. In total, he took a few acres of the surrounding area. Even though there were no homes or government offices in this area, it was a favorite area for people to go for a stroll. There were also many thriving businesses like brothels and gambling dens. With Geduk Singh taking such a big bite, the others were certainly not happy. So he started making lots of noise. When people came to make trouble, Geduk Singh showed off his cold dead face, warning them not to come close. When officials came to question him, They got beaten to black and blue and left. He even yelled after them, "This is the prince's order. If you are capable, don't find me, go find the prince." The money Chu Yang gave him, other than spending on hiring workers and construction material, he did not have to spend on anything else. During this time, official Chu Yang just got his position, so he put all his efforts into showing off his authority. My colleagues, today I gathered everyone here because I have just come into office. I needed you to know that. First, we need to become familiar with each other so we can easily work together. Second, there are some things I don't understand and I need your help in clarifying them. In other words, the new official will be showing off his authority today. The pavilion lord and his deputy, sitting next to Chu Yang, sank down slightly. As for the people sitting in front of Chu Yang, their faces were all gloomy. Chu Yang looked at the 85 people in front of him. His face was serious as he clasped his hands behind his back and paced back and forth. He was 100% authoritative. With one look, he could easily tell that these 85 people, as well as Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong, were not with the group welcoming Du Shi King. Moreover, those people were more skilled compared to these people by far. Tai Butan really did not show all his strength. Who I am sure everyone has already heard. Compared to everyone, I am probably just a student who could barely tie up a chicken. However, since I have undertaken this task the prince has given, I will use all my efforts to make Butan Pavilion the best it could be. I hope you will cooperate and not make it difficult for me. Chu Yang smiled coldly. If it becomes difficult for me, it would be even more difficult for you. This, I promise you. There was a commotion and lots of whispering. Everyone here has been in Jianghu, and they felt Chu Yang's words were a little ridiculous. Threatening people? How many of us have not put our lives on the line? Threats? Stupid threats. Student? A student wants to control Butan Pavilion? Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong looked at each other. They both did not know whether to laugh or to cry. It had always been the case that a newly appointed official showed off his authority a bit. But saying it straight out like this, official Chu was definitely the first. This is not Jianghu, it does not need Jianghu's rules. While this is not a military camp, it still needs its own rules. Moreover, it should be even stricter than that of military camps. Chu Yang took one glance and, not letting anyone interject, he continued to show his authority. I will ask you now, is there anyone who has opinions regarding my methods? If you do, you can leave immediately. I will not stop you. Everyone smiled awkwardly. Once you joined a secret organization like this, how could you leave? The only exit was death. Good. If no one has any opinions, then you have all recognized my position. Then, from now on, for anyone who goes against my orders, there is only one punishment. Death. Below, no one said anything. They just looked at each other. Big official Chu seemed as if he was carrying out a monologue by himself. I will now call a few names. The people with those names, please step forward. Chu Yang apparently did not care about what was going on because they were just as he expected. Chu Yang grabbed a stack of documents and called loudly, Liu Ziguang. Below, a middle-aged man with one eye reluctantly walked forward one step at a time. Liu Ziguang, 3rd grade martial master, from the area Thriving South. 3 years ago, you fought with an enemy and lost one eye. This enemy was a ranger named Ping Wu Ying from the Clear Spring Prefecture of Great Zhao, correct? Liu Ziguang slowly nodded. Official Chu, everyone knows about this. Implying, what you are saying is useless. Please take one step forward. Chu Yang took 2 steps toward Liu Ziguang and felt the pulse on his wrist. At the same time, he activated Deep Spirit Principle and 9 Tribulations Transcending the 9 Heavens technique on his hand. Liu Ziguang immediately pulled back. His eyes were as cold as 2 sword blades. Your main strength is hidden weapons. You were a disciple of Thriving South's Sun Clan, famous for their hidden weapon tactics. Sun Clan's hidden weapon tactics have one special thing about them. It is weak on the left and strong on the right. The left side only contributes 30%, while the right, 70%. This combination is used together with their signature mental technique return to throwing hand to throw weapons over a long distance, right? Yes, official Chu is indeed clever. Liu Ziguang did not know whether he was being praised or mocked. Currently he was really nervous. This information about the Sun Clan was top secret, but this person said everything in one breath. However, these hidden weapon tactics of the Sun Clan, while clever, the weak left and strong right approach has one limitation. That is that all disciples of the Sun Clan have one undeniable habit when facing the enemies. Their right eye are usually narrowed or closed altogether. In other words, they only use their left eye to aim at the enemies. Because of this, the left eyes of the Sun Clan's disciples are the most critical part of their bodies. Without their left eyes, their hidden weapons tactics would be useless. Weak left and strong right might make it tough for the enemies to guard themselves, but it has a very strict requirement on the individuals practicing this tactic. Liu Ziguang, one of your eyes was blinded by the enemy, and this was none other than your left eye, but your hidden weapons skill is still accurately 30% left and 70% right. Why is this? These words of Chu Yang made everyone sitting there change color. They all clearly understood the meaning of Chu Yang's words. Liu Ziguang changed color. He said, "It is because of my left eye being blinded that I worked hard to train my right eye to replace my left." Official Chu, if a person stumbled once, can he not pick himself up again? Chu Yang did not pay attention to his explanation, and said coldly, "When I checked your meridians earlier, I discovered that the meridians of both your eyes are good and without any damage. You lost your left eye but your meridians are fine." Everyone knows that whether it is sword, saber, punch, or kick, they would all cause injuries to the meridians over a long period of time. If the injuries are serious, then your meridians would be damaged to the point where they get distorted completely. And you, while losing your left eye, still have the surrounding meridians intact. According to the report, you said that Ping Wu Ying punched your eye, destroying it. Ha ha, Liu Ziguang, your enemy loved you so much that he blinded your eye and not damage one bit of the meridians. A person with cultivation level of martial master like Ping Wu Ying has such precise control of his power. That's impressive. Our official Cheng at the level of revered saber artist could not have such precise control. Liu Ziguang, why don't you ask official Cheng if he could do it? Chu Yang smiled coldly. The palace has its own physicians, and we have our own Bhutan Pavilion physician right here as well. He could check you out. Liu Ziguang, do you have any more to say? At this point, Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong's faces became pale as they sat in their seats. Chu Yang's words were simply basic knowledge of martial injuries. Every one of his words were true, but how did they not know? Damaging someone's eye without damaging his meridians. Forget about a martial master. Even revered saber artist Cheng Zheng did not have the capability. To be able to do this, the cultivation level had to be at least martial monarch. If Liu Ziguang's injury was like what Chu Yang said, then there was only one possibility. Liu Ziguang was a spy and his injury was intentional. Besides this, there was no other explanation. Liu Ziguang took one step back, blood completely drained from his face. Next to Chu Yang, Bhutan Pavilion's physician stood up and was heading in his direction. On Liu Ziguang's face there was a look of despair. He suddenly laughed and said, "Yes, kiddo, you are very powerful. I cannot believe I damaged my own body and came here as a spy only to be discovered by you. Not bad. I am Liu Xiaocheng. Liu Ziguang had died by my hand a long time ago. Haha, you might have uncovered my identity, but don't expect to get anything else from me. In order to spy, you actually destroyed your own eye. Haha. Such a desperate act would naturally get a lot of sympathy from others. Moreover, they would not inspect your eye's injury. Sacrificing an eye to spy is actually not too much of a price for you since you could use this to give people a misconception." Chu Yang smiled coldly and said, "But you did not expect that, right now. No such misconceptions exist." Liu Xiaocheng sneered, "So what? I can only die once." Cheng Zheng's face reddened. He stood up and angrily said, "Liu Xiaocheng, damn you. The 2 assassination attempts in Sun Citadel Prefecture were foiled by you." Liu Xiaocheng laughed. "The meat was placed in front of my mouth. Why not eat it?" Cheng Zheng's whole body shook. He sent 2 people to assassinate a general of Great Zhao twice. One of those assassins was Cheng Zheng's disciple. He could not have imagined that his plans were in the hands of the enemies. They died in vain. Cheng Zheng was seized by uncontrollable anger. His eyes were completely red. At the same time, he was also filled with remorse. With a spy hidden in his own ranks, and one that he especially valued as well, he brought the lives of his own man and his disciple and handed them over to the enemies with both hands. "I'll kill you!" Chen Zheng roared as his body flew forward. "Stop! Capture him alive!" Chen Yutong quickly yelled. With the enemy's spy in front of them, it was more useful to capture him alive. Who knew how many of more than 80 people left were of his kind? Ha ha, Chen Yutong, no need for such wishful thinking. I am not really thinking about living anymore. Liu Xiaocheng laughed loudly, and then his body suddenly jolted. His eyeballs rolled and black blood leaked out of the edge of his mouth. It was poison. He had long ago hidden a highly toxic poison in his mouth. Bam! Liu Xiaocheng's body fell on the group. It twitched a little and then there was no movement. Chen Zheng roared angrily. He kicked Liu Xiaocheng's body and yelled, "Check Liu Xiaocheng's background. I want to kill his entire family, all 9 generations. DLN, great-great-grandfather to great-great-grandchild." Chen Zheng was ashamed and humiliated. Such a spy under his own watch for such a long time, and he did not know. Moreover, he directly set up one mission after another and sent the lives of his martial brothers into the enemy's traps. He even sent his most valued disciple. If Chu Yang did not uncover this guy today, then who knew how many more times would Chen Zheng keep falling into the enemy's traps? Everyone looked at Chu Yang in a different light. This newly appointed adjunct minister was really not simple. He only took this position for one day and he already caught a spy. This was tantamount to saving some of their lives. Who knew who would be the next one to die on a mission? It could have been any one of them. With a spy like this, anyone would have died. Wait! Chu Yang shouted. "What orders do you have, Minister Chu?" Chen Zheng's attitude toward Chu Yang had completely changed at this point. He committed a serious dereliction of duty and Chu Yang had helped him correct it. Even though he was a youth with low cultivation, he had keen observation and superior wisdom. The others could not help but respect him. DLN, title means to undertake a painstaking investigation. Even though there were still some knots in Chen Zheng's heart, his annoyance had greatly lessened. Liu Xiaocheng might not be his real name either. Chu Yang sneered. This type of soldier, once their identity is revealed, they would kill themselves. Why would they leave their own name and give you a clue to investigate with? It might just lead to a bunch of powerful enemies. We must be careful in this matter. The minister is right. Chen Zheng's face seemed frightened as he said gravely. Towards this young minister, his admiration was increasing. Deputy Pavilion Lord Chen Yutong also agreed with Chu Yang's insight and became pensive. We first need to investigate based on appearance, cultivation level, and special characteristics of the body. From there, we could verify his true identity. We cannot believe in anything he said. The second step, while the name Liu Xiaocheng might not be credible, one person will surely know. It is the ranger, Ping Wu Ying, from Clear Spring Prefecture. This person must be captured. At the time Liu Xiaocheng joined Bhutan Pavilion, we investigated him through Ping Wu Ying. Ping Wu Ying verified Liu Xiaocheng's identity. In other words, Ping Wu Ying was involved in this. He was not the mastermind, but he is definitely an enemy. We absolutely cannot spare Ping Wu Ying and his family. Yes. Chen Yutong said, I will arrange it immediately, and bring Ping Wu Ying back for questioning. No need, just kill him with one slash and be done with it. Questioning will not bring us any results. Chu Yang said firmly, secrets between two countries, the position of someone like Ping Wu Ying is not high enough to know anything. Most likely they would have already severed ties with him by the time we catch him. We don't have such an advantage. We should at least try, we might just be able to catch a big fish. Chen Zheng insisted. He had made such a grievous mistake before, so he was trying to make up for it. And Ping Wu Ying was the closest opportunity. He could not just let that go. Up to you. Chu Yang said casually, there is another connection, the Sun Clan. They gave this person a background. In other words, the Sun Clan is also another force involved in this conspiracy. Chu Yang's cold eyes slowly looked over everyone as he said lightly, thriving South's Sun Clan, kill them all. Whoever his gaze fell upon, felt as if they were being eyed by a poisonous snake. Their whole body felt a sudden chill, as those 3 words came out of Chu Yang's mouth. A killing aura followed it and spread in all 4 directions, making everyone tremble. I will have to bother official Cheng with this. Chu Yang looked in Cheng Zheng's direction, and slightly nodded as he said politely. Even though Chu Yang's voice was polite, this was an order. This was Chu Yang's first action after his investigation. If he wanted to have total control of Bhutan Pavilion, Cheng Zheng's attitude was the most important. On Cheng Zheng's face there appeared a conflicted look. After his countenance changed a few times, he slowly said, "Yes, I shall carry it out." Chu Yang smiled with satisfaction and said, "As for any invasion routes discovered by this spy, we will toss them out from now on. They can no longer be used." Can we use these routes to plan against the enemies and salvage some of our dignity back? Chen Yutong mused and asked. "No, we have no way of knowing whether there are still spies left. Just one would be enough for the information about today's purge to be leaked out. Then the enemies could also use these routes to plan against us. This would be a road of death." Chu Yang's gaze changed. It seemed this Chen Yutong had some brains, only he was still too inexperienced and green. Yes, the minister is right. The sweat on Chen Yutong's forehead poured out like rain. He certainly did not consider that possibility. Chu Yang picked up the second file. His eyes swept over them as he slowly asked, "Who here is Menuda?" Below, in the 3rd row, a bearded man suddenly turned pale. Everyone around him immediately turned around and looked at him, their eyes showing a guarded air. Chu Yang's clear gaze was on Menuda. He quietly asked, "Menuda, do you want to kill yourself now or after I expose you?" The beard on Menuda's face trembled, then he suddenly snapped, Don't think that just because you got to go on the prince's carriage and got a few praises from him that you are truly the minister. My whole life, I have never done anything to be ashamed of." Bhutan Pavilion had dozens of missions, all the successful ones, where we came back alive, included me. I am completely dedicated and put my life on the line for Iron Cloud. But today, a little bee like you dare to call me a spy? After he said this, everyone immediately re-evaluated everything. It was true that in all the assassination missions, only Menuda's squadron was able to successfully complete theirs. The other 6 squadrons were all annihilated. Moreover, Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong also had a celebration in honor of Menuda and promoted him from squadron leader to captain. How could he be a spy? Cheng Zheng frowned and looked at Chu Yang. Menuda was a good fighter that he wanted to promote. If he was really a spy, then Cheng Zheng might as well toss out his dignity. Chu Yang looked at Menuda calmly. Those assassination attempts, 4 other squadrons went southeast and continually failed. Only you, Menuda, went southeast and succeeded. And your strategy was based on information from Liu Xiaocheng. Furthermore, your mission was carried out in the territory of thriving South's Sun Clan. Yet somehow you managed to not only succeed, but also came back safely without a scratch. So I ask you, what happened to the others? Why did your squadron come back alive time and time again? The other 4 squadrons' cultivation levels were not lower than yours. They had more manpower and their targets were actually weaker than yours. And yet, in the end, they all failed while you came back in victory. Perhaps Liu Xiaocheng only knew the plans of the 4 other squadrons but not yours. How could this be? If I am not mistaken, he and you were both on the 2nd squadron and the plans were completely in the hands of the 2nd squadron. So in other words, Liu Xiaocheng definitely knew your plans. Before being able to verify the true identity of that person, Chu Yang could only refer to him as Liu Xiaocheng. Chu Yang gave Menuda an icy look. Is your luck that good? Cheng Zheng sighed, his face pale. In this respect, Menuda was looking really suspicious. Is my superior skill not enough? Menuda looked full of anguish, but behind that facade, there was a flash of panic. No. Chu Yang slowly shook his head and stated with certainty, you are a spy. If you are accusing me of being a spy, then bring out your evidence. Menuda roared. We might be part of Iron Cloud's royal court, but this is not the Justice Department. Chu Yang said coolly, I only need to suspect you, then it would be enough for me to kill you. What evidence would I need? People, grab him. The moment the order was given, two men immediately jumped up and headed toward Meng Yude. One of them was Cheng Zhang. Cheng Zhang was really furious. He did not expect that when Chu Yang gave the order so many subordinates below actually started to move. This was essentially the official recognition of Chu Yang's authority over them. This symbolized the solidification of Chu Yang's authority over Bhutan Pavilion. Cheng Zhang's face was as red as a liver. His anger was about to burst out from under his skin. If Meng Yude was a spy, then the spies essentially saw him as an idiot. Moreover, with more than one spy in his organization, and he himself helped promote one of them. He was, in essence, one of their confidants. What kind of mockery was this? Hold it! Meng Yude shouted loudly, "This little bee is talking nonsense. Don't tell me you guys are believing this. Because of a little bee that just arrived, you are ready to cut down a meritorious brother like this? Meng Yude, if you are not a spy, then we will surely give you back your good name. Why are you being so scared like that?" Chu Yang said coldly. Meng Yude was surprised, then he suddenly laughed out loud. "If Bhutan already gave power to a little bee like you, then is this a place for me anymore? I don't need to answer any questions. I will bid you all farewell." Right after he finished, he immediately shot toward the window as fast as a flying meteor. However, there was someone even faster than him. In a flash, Deputy Pavilion Lord Chen Yutong appeared by the window. Bam! The two people palmed each other. Chen Yutong shook violently after that one move. His face turned dark. He yelled angrily, "Your cultivation level is clearly great, martial master. Why did you pretend to be a martial master?" He thought that his opponent was a martial master, so he only used a quarter of his martial power. He did not expect the opponent's strength to be so powerful. He did not have time to activate more energy and almost suffered a major injury. Chen Yutong's words made the atmosphere even grimmer. Just the cover-up of his cultivation alone was already very suspicious. Meng Yude fell to the ground, and took a few staggered steps before stabilizing himself. He laughed mockingly, "That's enough. If you don't believe me, then let me just die. My own martial brothers don't trust me. What else is there to make this life worth living?" After he finished, he raised his palm above his head and started to slam down. His face was filled with frustration. "Elder brother Meng, wait a minute." A big man stepped up, reached out and grabbed Meng Yude's wrist. He said hastily, "Someday, everything will be clear. Why must you put down your own life like this?" Shying. Before the man was done speaking, Meng Yude's face turned devious. The hand that was aiming at his own head now turned and grabbed the other man's wrist tightly. At the same time, his right arm reached down toward his waist and only a bright flash was seen before his long sword was on the man's throat. "Let me leave." Meng Yude grinned, "Otherwise, this guy will die with me." "You would rather threaten the life of a hostage than explain yourself. If you're not a spy, then what are you?" Chu Yang looked at him from a distance and used a strange, unseen force as he slowly spoke. "Meng Yude, even though you are a spy, I really admire you. The process Great Zhao uses to choose talents is truly impeccable. I don't even know how they managed to find such powerful people like you guys." Meng Yude sneered. With his hand holding a sword, his eyes looked around as he slowly moved toward the door. His mouth unconsciously answered, "Under Minister Daiwu, no one is afraid of death." After those words came out of his mouth, his face suddenly became pale. In the Great Hall, everyone immediately let out an angry. These words were his own admission of his true identity. "You really are a spy." Cheng Zheng was so angry he almost vomited blood. The feeling of shame rose right to his head. At that moment, he felt extremely depressed. He only wanted to kill himself to pay for his errors. Chen Yutong looked at Chu Yang with surprise. This Meng Yude had a really fortified mind. Even in great struggles and hopelessness, he was still a formidable person. Such a person was normally tight-lipped. Why did he reveal his flaws after a few words from Chu Yang? Chu Yang's face seemed nonchalant, but inside, he was sneering. He secretly used deep spirit principle with the words he said earlier. Moreover, he used all of his mental strength to speak, and these words came out at a key moment. When Meng Yude had just relaxed his mind, Chu Yang's question along with this hypnotic method powerfully fell upon him. Meng Yude was too busy looking around him for any movements to notice Chu Yang's mental attack, and just conveniently answered his question. A sentence he could never be redeemed from. No worries, they're both on the same side. Kill them. Chu Yang said coldly as he looked at Meng Yude pulling the other man toward the door. He took that guy as a hostage instead of anyone else. Just earlier, the two were against each other. But suddenly, that guy jumped up for him to take hostage, and so easily, too. Who would be fooled by such a cat-and-mouse game? Kill them all. These words barely came out of Chu Yang's mouth, yet they gave everyone another shock. Even Meng Yude and that man were not any less shocked. Suddenly, the two roared out loud and separated from each other. With their weapons out, they tried to break out. Such actions further verified Chu Yang's speculation. All the doubtful minds immediately understood. No wonder that man acted so strangely. No wonder Meng Yude captured a hostage so easily. No wonder. Chu Yang's words had forced the two to take desperate actions. In their head, Chu Yang's words rang clearly. I only need to suspect you, then it would be enough for me to kill you. What evidence would I need? This made the two think, death is death. It is better to risk it with a fight. Even if we die, news would be sent back and our families would be safe. Besides, we might not die. They were already at the door. Another 10 feet then they would escape. This might not have necessarily meant survival, but it was still safer than this enclosed great hall. The two felt like success was in their grasp. They were so happy when Chu Yang unexpectedly revealed their tactic. However, there was not that great of a distance left. Taking a desperate rush might not end up being so bad for them. Once they were out of here and in the midst of Ironcloud Citadel, they would surely find help. Cheng Zheng angrily roared. A bright saber suddenly flashed in the great hall. That saber just flashed. There was immediately 2 screams. There were 2 dead people chopped into 4 parts at the door. Blood spilled on the ground. Cheng Zheng with his saber in hand, stood like a statue at the door with his back against everyone. He killed the 2 spies with one swing of his saber. Minister, I have done wrong. Cheng Zheng turned toward Chu Yang's direction and kneeled with his head down as he spoke with great difficulty. Cheng Zheng felt extremely shameful. Earlier, he was almost fooled again. If Meng Yude did not use his fellow spy to escape, then he would still be here to continue causing damage to Bhutan Pavilion. What was most intolerable was the fact that he almost got fooled again. If Chu Yang was not here, then he surely would have believed what he had seen. There are so many spies in my ranks, and yet I am still a naive idiot. So naive that I could have been fooled so easily. I don't have any dignity left to live. How can I take on the responsibilities of a pavilion lord of Bhutan Pavilion? Don't be in such a rush to confess. This is not over yet. Chu Yang glared at him coldly, then looked at the documents in his hand and randomly pulled out one file. He said nonchalantly, who is Feng Cheng's? Step out. Suicide or be killed. Choose one. After this cleansing, Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong only wanted to crawl down a hole and die. In the group of 87, Chu Yang managed to pull out 9 spies. With each one, he had evidence. If not actual evidence, then Chu Yang would use some psychological methods for them to show their tails. The most incredible one was number 9. Chu Yang did not even call his name yet. He only shifted his gaze towards that guy, and he immediately looked around and stepped out of his ranks. This guy looked at Chu Yang and gave his thumbs up as he praised. Minister, you are great. I am a spy and I only knew the identity of one of those spies. You managed to find them all. What's most admirable is that you did this by only looking through documents. This power of insight alone is worthy of my respect. Really? Chu Yang closed the documents and waved his hand as he looked at this person. This time, Chu Yang did not need to say anything. Chen Yutong automatically took the documents from Chu Yang's hand. Only a single day had passed, but Chu Yang had managed to establish absolute authority. Notwithstanding anything else, the existence of these spies meant that Bhutan Pavilion could have fallen at any time. Moreover, as long as they did not show any big flaws, they could have continued to spy indefinitely. What Chu Yang did was equivalent to saving their lives, more than once. Forget about how young Chu Yang was. Forget about what his cultivation level was. His insight alone was unmatched in this world. Chu Yang did not bother to move a finger. He also did not have to show his cultivation. His keen insight was enough to conquer these stubborn people of Bhutan Pavilion. You are also a spy? You're admitting it on your own? Good, you saved me the trouble. Chu Yang smiled. Could it be that you have something to tell me? That person smiled and said, you did not ask those before me. Now that I have stood up on my own, you definitely should not ask. Chu Yang nodded in agreement. Witnessing his calmness when he identified himself, Chu Yang had long since given up any hope of him talking. This man was clearly ready to die since he was so calm. Chu Yang gently tapped his finger on the tabletop. I understand. Most of you people are faithful to Daewoo King Ru, the rest are controlled with the lives of their family members. Currently, we do not have the power to save them, and we especially are in no condition to recruit you, so I won't ask. You may go ahead and kill yourself if you want. Bhutan Pavilion has indeed found a good leader. Minister Chu's intelligence, cunning, and insight are little different from the legendary official Daewoo. I actually wanted to see you two fight, to see who will win in the end. It's a pity that this is no longer possible. That person smiled as black blood slowly ran down the side of his mouth. He had bitten the poison sac in his mouth. In fact, we also have never seen Daewoo King Ru. That person looked at Chu Yang with blank eyes. His body remained erect like that, but his breathing had stopped. It was not until a long while after that it fell down. His last words were filled with hidden meanings. The entire great hall was flooded with the smell of fresh blood. The atmosphere was so quiet it was suffocating. Shenzhen's people were stunned. All those spies, and none of them turned. While some of them were captured and killed, most of them committed suicide. What sort of methods were used to train a group of people like that? Especially that last one. Even when he was dying, he was calm and smiling. As Chu Yang looked at the bodies on the ground, his countenance was grim. How many more of such people did Daewoo King Ru still have in his hands? He suddenly felt that this Daewoo King Ru had become a giant mountain in his path. He already knew that Daewoo King Ru was incredibly powerful, but after what had happened today, Chu Yang was forced to place Daewoo King Ru at an even higher level. An unprecedented rival. Chu Yang smiled faintly and gathered his thoughts. Looking at the remaining people, he said, those who are still here, there is. The evidence I have currently is still too inadequate, so we will temporarily stop here. In any case, there will not be any missions in the near future. I hope all the remaining spies will quickly leave Bhutan Pavilion on their own. As for those who are currently in contact with Daewoo King Ru's people, but are still on the fence, I hope that you will quickly make a final decision. He paused a little, then slowly continued. Bhutan Pavilion was just founded not too long ago. The reason you people had come here is to, first, use your efforts to make your own fortune, and second, help your families live a good life. However, spying. This is not exactly a good thing. If you leave on your own, I will not pursue any further. Anyone who comes to me on their own, not only will they not be punished, they would be rewarded. I solemnly guarantee it. Besides not pursuing it further, I will also help those people keep their secret. At this point, his gaze swept over the dozens of people below. One by one, as his gaze fell upon them, they felt as if they were being watched by a poisonous snake. An icy chill rose right to their heads. I only have from now until midnight. Chu Yang said coldly, from the pavilion lord and downward, 2 people every quarter of an hour. Everyone will have to come in for a chat with me. By dawn tomorrow, those who are still on the fence will be killed. Absolutely no mercy. Pavilion lords, do you have anything to add? Chu Yang turned and asked. His question was simply a false courtesy to appease the two. He did not expect Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong to immediately step forward and answer. Whatever the minister decides, we will absolutely follow. Chu Yang smiled with satisfaction. If that's the case, let's start. I will be waiting inside. With that, he casually stood up and walked away. After Chu Yang left, everyone simultaneously stood up with all eyes on his back. This minister is really powerful. Someone whispered. True, this insight and this intelligence are really indescribable. I have not done anything against my conscience, But when he looked at me, I felt guilty. Yes, I also had that feeling. What is his cultivation level? One person wondered. Forget it. Don't try to poke into things you don't understand. With just his intelligence alone, would it matter if the minister did not know any martial arts? Do you not see Dai Wu King Ru? You're right. Having said that, it seems that the minister does not even know a little bit of martial arts. His appearance seems gallant, but also a little weak. I am sure he will grow to be handsome. Such a weak physique, but one glance was enough to send chills over the whole body. Everyone was still talking when Chu Yang stood up and walked toward the room Chu Yang just went in. Behind him, a discussion rose up. You guys try to guess. After this purge, how many people will remain? Who knows? With 9 dead. Mother, those 9 guys lived in the same place as us every day, and yet I did not notice anything. Honestly speaking, this minister saved our lives when I went out on missions. You got that right. After hearing you say that, a chill ran down my back. After a short while, Chu Yang came out from the room. His gaze shifted back and forth. Chen Yutong sighed and went in. Look, it seems that the 2 pavilion lords have yielded since the founding of Bhutan Pavilion until now. Besides Prince Bhutan, they have not yielded to anyone. This minister is really not a simple person. Are you kidding? Currently, the whole world is fighting for power. An individual's strength can only rule one region, but superior intelligence can rule the world. How could these 2 things even be compared? Being subservient to someone like the minister, at least we won't die in vain. Well said. They went in one after another. Even while he was in the room, Chu Yang still attentively paid attention to what was going on outside. Even after everyone went back out, he did not stop paying attention. Yet, he did not discover anything else. Perhaps there were no more, or perhaps they were extremely crafty and did not reveal any flaws. Chu Yang himself did not have much hope. He only wanted to go through every member of the pavilion. By the time everyone came back out, it was almost midnight. Those who already went in came out quietly and waited in the Great Hall. They did not dare to make noise or complain about being hungry. They just waited in silence. Finally, Chu Yang also came out. His face was so grim, it disturbed everyone. It seemed. Was something not right? Perhaps there were too many spies? Under everyone's watchful eyes, Chu Yang finally spoke. I am very sad. He frowned and said with a sigh, I thought since you are all people of Iron Cloud, you would love your country passionately. At the battlefield, 2,800,000 brothers became spirits, and yet I can't believe. Yet, silence in all 4 directions. It seemed there were really still spies left within their midst. If the spies are people of Great Zhao, then that can't be helped, because that is their country, their home. But you people are Iron Cloud people. Yet, because of feudals of silver, because of some empty promises, you would hand over 600 million of your own people over to others to let them trample, to let them abuse. Are you people still human beings? Chu Yang seemed really agitated. His face was completely red. More than 70 experts of martial master and martial great master levels stood muted below. I will remind you once more. If a person from Great Zhao committed these offenses, I will kill only that person. However, if it is an Iron Cloud person, I will kill 9 generations of his family. Chu Yang sternly asked, do you think I should do that? Yes, the people below replied in unison. Perhaps, their names should be written down in history, so they can suffer the ridicules of many generations as well. If you correct your mistakes now, I will not investigate further. I hope everyone will learn from this. Today, I will let bygones be bygones, but you should keep in mind, the chance you are given today is once in a lifetime. Chu Yang spoke these words with an extremely solemn air. The people below, even if they never committed any betrayals, felt guilty upon hearing these words. 2,800,000 souls laid down in the battlefield. I have not done anything worth mentioning yet. Moreover, from the minister's words, it seems there are still spies in amidst, as well as people who are wavering. This was infuriating to everyone. I will now announce a new partitioning of power for Bhutan Pavilion. From now on, Bhutan Pavilion will divide into 3 brigades. The first is Iron Blood Brigade, directly supervised by me. This brigade will be in charge of punishments. Iron Blood, the blood of Ironclad, must have unquestionable loyalty. Chu Yang's eyes, full of prestige and radiance, swept the room as he spoke. Everything in this world has rules. If the rules are not strict, there will be flaws. Once there are flaws, then there will be loss. And this loss will be human lives. Our Bhutan Pavilion does not deal in selling and buying, but in killing. I am sure everyone understands this very well. Therefore, everyone in this organization must obey Iron Blood Brigade unconditionally. Yes, as the minister commands. Creating Iron Blood Brigade for Bhutan Pavilion is something that must be done. Chu Yang nodded. By talking about this first, he had brought the entire Bhutan Pavilion into one singular unit. Unconditional obedience. This was not simple at all. The second is Fierce Blood Brigade, Ironclad's hot-bloodedness. At any time this brigade must be ready to take on dangerous missions. It is Bhutan Pavilion's fist. This brigade is Bhutan Pavilion's most important source of strength. Chu Yang's eyes was filled with trust as he looked at Cheng Zheng and said sincerely, I think, with this great burden, no one is better suited than official Cheng. Cheng Zheng was caught by surprise. He took one step forward and, with one hand holding the other fist, he said, as the minister commands. Of course, Cheng Zheng knew Chu Yang's intentions very well. Chu Yang wanted to hold all of Bhutan Pavilion's power in his hands. If Cheng Zheng took on the position of the 2nd Brigade's leader, then that was no different than him leaving his Pavilion Lord position. From now on, Bhutan Pavilion would not have a Pavilion Lord, only one minister. Today, Chu Yang not only established his authority, but also suppressed the prestige of the 2 Pavilion Lords down to nothing. Currently, if the 2 of them stubbornly maintained their Pavilion Lord positions, they would just end up with a name without any substance. Moreover, the 2 of them had made such a big blunder, they did not have the face to sit in that position anymore. DLN, it's been a while since we got some face. At this time, when they felt guilty and depressed, Chu Yang made this request that hit right in their weak spot. If they protested, the rest of the pavilion members would have probably jeered them. Therefore, this brigade leader position, Cheng Zheng had to take it even if he did not want it. Currently, Chu Yang's authority was as powerful as the midday sun. Cheng Zheng no longer had any options. Chu Yang smiled happily and said, Official Cheng is extremely skilled, a top-level expert under the heavens. I am extremely assured. Thank you for Minister Chu's praises. Cheng Zheng smiled forcefully, and thought to himself, this guy got rid of my position with barely any effort. He took all my power, lowered my position and destroyed my fame. And yet, I have to thank him. Mother, life is really strange. The 3rd Brigade is. Chu Yang pondered a little. He raised his eyebrow and said decisively, the 3rd will be called Heavenly Secret Brigade. All of Bhutan Pavilion's information shall be handed to them. This is the bloodline of Bhutan Pavilion. If the information has even the smallest of errors, the price would be none other than our blood. Therefore, Heavenly Secret, DLN, Tian Ji, a mystery only known to heaven, was the name of Tian Ji, master of calculation and manipulation. Tian Ji was the person who orchestrated Chu Yang's demise in the past life. He intentionally named Bhutan Pavilion's intelligence unit Heavenly Secret Brigade to remind himself every minute, every second that there was still a powerful enemy ahead of him. If he slacked off just a little, in the hands of Tian Ji, he would reach a hopeless end. How terrifying Tian Ji was, no one knew better than Chu Yang. Minister Chu, I volunteer to be the leader of the 3rd Brigade. I promise to share some of the hardship with Prince Bhutan and Minister Chu. Chen Yutong did not wait for Chu Yang to finish before stepping up and volunteering to take on this position. Cheng Zheng had to give in, then why would I bother to protest? I might as well concede, as long I can have a stable foothold in Bhutan Pavilion in the future. Minister Chu was brought in by Prince Bhutan himself, hand-picked amongst all of Ironclad Nation. What can I gain by going against him? Chen Yutong thought to himself. Thank you Brigade Leader Chen. Haha, and I was worried that Heavenly Secret Brigade would not have an experienced and resourceful leader. Official Chen volunteered to take on this responsibility. I am pleasantly surprised. Chu Yang said happily. Pleasantly surprised, my butt. If I didn't volunteer, you would still throw it in my face. Cheng Zheng's lesson is still fresh. I am not that stupid, Chen Yutong thought inwardly, but his face was all smiles. We are Ironclad's people. If we could help contribute to our nation, then that is already a lifetime's privilege for us fighters. Good. Official Chen is truly a good man. Chu Yang praised happily. Then suddenly he seemed to have realized something, then said sincerely, Official Chen, Heavenly Secret Brigade is something that has to be carefully handled. Every piece of information must be verified because I want us to be 100% sure. Then I could send the brothers from Fierce Blood to complete their missions. If on the small chance that, well, the responsibility of Heavenly Secret Brigade would not be small. Official Chen, all these lives in Bhutan Pavilion are placed in your hands. The great responsibility that you have shouldered is not light at all. Chen Yutong almost choked with anger. This guy talked like a righteous person, but in truth, he was clearly just seizing power. Complete certainty. Who can be so certain about anything like he wanted? Forget about sneaking into the enemy's lines and assassinating their general. Even if you just got married, there would still be a chance of impotence when the night comes. Once we have information, this brigade leader will immediately discuss it with Minister Chu. Then we can analyze the bad and the good carefully. Finally, we can come up with the perfect plan together. Chen Yutong suppressed his anger and continued. At that time, I hope Minister Chu can put aside some time out of his busy schedule to deal with such urgent matters, and join in the intel work of Heavenly Secret Brigade for the safety of all the martial bothers. Chen Yutong had lost his deputy pavilion lord position in a painful way. These words of his were the same as to him handing his intelligence leader position over as well. At this point, he was just an intelligence gathering machine, without any decision-making capability. This. Chu Yang made a show of facing a tough decision and said, Official Chen does not need to do that. I only said so without any other hidden meanings. Besides, I am in charge of both Iron Blood and overseeing the whole operation. Everything will keep me very busy. I am afraid I won't have time. I hope the minister will carefully reconsider for the sake of the greater good, and all the martial brothers. Chen Yutong's mouth was saying this while his heart was cursing this shameless Chu Yang's 8 generations of ancestors. You clearly forced me to hand my rights over, but, now, you are putting up your false pretense. Ah! Chu Yang sighed and spoke with great reservation. If that is the case, okay, I shall take a chance with these old bones. Then, below, a number of people pursed their lips. Then I officially announce that we now have 3 leaders for the brigades. Chu Yang dealt with the 2 pavilion lords without pulling out his blade. Now that all the power was completely in his hands, he could not help but feel exhilarated. Next, Chu Yang took the opportunity to hand out assignments as if he had lived with these people for decades. Who was good at what, who was bad at what, who was best suited for what brigade so they can show their full potentials. Everything was arranged in their rightful place. There was nothing that was not clear and orderly. Everyone was given the position most suited to them. The 3 brigades in the Great Hall were just formed, and they immediately divided clear responsibilities. One could imagine how such divisions could make their strength increase tremendously compared to what they were before, when everyone were just tossed in one pile. Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong were currently critical of Chu Yang, but they could not help admiring his arrangements. Without wasting 1 ounce of strength, Chu Yang completely controlled Bhutan Pavilion. Chu Yang looked at Heavenly Secret Brigade, and immediately thought of Gadu crossing. How are things progressing on his end? Within the prince's manor, Tai Bhutan frowned as he looked at the 2 people in front of him. Wait a moment. Sitting opposite of him was 2 officials dressed in court attire. Their faces looked worried. The 2 of them came here because of the incident of Gaduk Singh taking over Emerald Flow Lake. After all, Gaduk Singh was essentially throwing names and said that it was Tai Bhutan's order. With the prince's name, the officials did not dare to do anything rash, and came here for a consultation. They did not expect when they came here in the late afternoon that it would be midnight, and Prince Tai Bhutan's attitude was still ambiguous. He did not say they could leave, but he also did not say they were not allowed to leave. He only kept saying one phrase. Wait a moment more. It has been a few dozen times since Tai Bhutan said wait a moment more, making the 2 unable to leave. They had to sit like that for a long time. Every time the 2 people tried to talk, the prince would only say, "Wait a moment." These two pitiful men sat so long that they became antsy. They did not even dare to go to the bathroom. Their stomachs made sorry gurgling noises. Finally, there was an announcement at the door. "Your Highness, official Cheng asked to see you." "Send him into the side hall." Then Taibu Tan slowly stood up, and turned to the two people. "Please wait a moment. I will be back shortly." The two officials quickly nodded. They smiled and said, "Your Highness is busy, please feel free to go." Taibu Tan nodded and walked out. Side hall. Cheng Zheng was pacing back and forth. After performing his ceremonious greeting with Taibu Tan, he seemed to want to say something but hesitated. "What's wrong?" Taibu Tan asked quietly. "Your Highness has a keen eye for people." Cheng Zheng finally managed to squeeze out one sentence after half a day of suppression. "Bhutan Pavilion is right now under his sole command." What? Did he use force to control everyone? It is not the case. He managed to dig out 9 spies from within Bhutan Pavilion. From beginning to end, he only used the facade of a weak scholar to take care of everything. Finally, he took away Chen Yutong's and my power. Cheng Zheng sighed, looking ashamed. "What?" Taibu Tan was a bit shocked, and murmured, "So fast?" "Yes." Moreover, all the martial brothers at the pavilion respect him completely. Respect. Taibu Tan stood up and walked a few steps back and forth. Of course, he had faith that Chu Yang was capable of controlling Bhutan Pavilion. What he did not expect was that it would be so fast. Plus, he never bothered to use force to achieve his goals. This made him see Chu Yang's abilities in a whole new light. After contemplating for a moment, he said, "You may go." Looking at Cheng Zheng leaving, Taibu Tan faced the heavens, quietly thought and muttered, "If he has such capabilities, then I have to give him Emerald Flow Lake." What's there to hesitate about? Without trust, the person can't be used. If the person is used, there should be no suspicions. It was true that Chu Yang had an existing agreement with Taibu Tan, but that was for part of Emerald Flow Lake only. However, Gaduk Singh currently played a big game, and took over all of Emerald Flow Lake. The area he took over was much larger than what was agreed upon. Even though this was outside of his original expectations, Taibu Tan patiently waited. He was waiting to see if Chu Yang could control Bhutan Pavilion. That was all. If he did not have the ability to control, then he would not get anything. However, Chu Yang had now demonstrated abilities surpassing everyone else. Even if he asked for the whole world, Taibu Tan would acquiesce if he could. The two officials in the Great Hall exchanged gazes. They had a bad feeling, as if the prince had already made some promise with Emerald Flow Lake. But if that was the case, the prince only needed to say so and this whole thing would be buried. Why did he hesitate like this? "I have made you two wait long." Taibu Tan slowly walked forward, smiling as he spoke. With so much work, it could not be helped. "Please forgive me." The two hurriedly said they did not dare. "Ah, you were talking about Emerald Flow Lake, correct?" Taibu Tan rubbed his brows, and said sadly, "My memory is not that good." "Yes, it's about that Emerald Flow Lake. We wanted to know if the prince has any orders." "I heard that person's attitude was very bad." Taibu Tan frowned and asked with some displeasure, "Your Highness, that young man had no reason. He isolated the entire Emerald Flow Lake and turned it into an off-limits area. He made it into his personal property. Moreover, he announced that it was the prince's idea. This commotion drove the people's anguish to the breaking point. If we don't intervene in time, it might cause a great upheaval in the citadel." In front of Taibu Tan was a middle-aged man with a big position in the royal court. Taibu Tan's less than happy attitude gave him the hint that the prince was not pleased with that person, so he immediately made a big deal out of it. The people's anguish reached the breaking point. Might cause a great upheaval? Taibu Tan's mouth curved up, showing a mocking smile. "Official Wang, you are the head scholar of the court. When I was little, I was also taught by you. From you, I learned many valuable ideas. But these words, the people's anguish reached the breaking point that just came out of your mouth, disappointed me." Official Wang was momentarily stunned. The prince's words, this lowly official does not understand. 5 years ago, this Emerald Flow Lake became your family's property. Taibu Tan used a calm and peaceful voice, enough to lull people to sleep. He said lightly, "Official Wang, your nephew is Wang Baoping." That year, He helped the son of Yuxiang take over Emerald Flow Lake. Afterward, Yuxiang was killed by royal uncle in the Golden Hall, and all his properties were confiscated. And the person in charge of confiscating that property was you, Official Wang. Official Wang suddenly paled. How could he not understand Tai Butan's implications? Yuxiang's son was sentenced to be exiled as a soldier, but ended up dying a questionable death in prison. From then on, Emerald Flow Lake, while seemingly without an owner on the outside, was actually controlled by your Wang family. Tai Butan said casually. Official Wang, around Emerald Flow Lake, there are a total of a few dozen businesses. There are 68 altogether. 37 of those belongs to the Wang family. The truth is, the royal court had not investigated this because, first, in the chaos of war with external forces, we have been busy. Second, all 3 inspectors of the royal court have properties at Emerald Flow Lake. Although not too many, those 31 properties left over were somehow fairly divided amongst the 3. Ha ha ha, the income from all these years were not little at all. They were quite impressive actually. Third, I was hoping that there would be a day when you realize your mistake and turn back. Because for building my ironclad, it was not easy for you officials either. What we have today is partly from your efforts. There is also the support of the royal court, public relations, as well as all your merits. For the country and the people, you have made your contributions. Ha ha. Within Tai Butan's voice there was a slight chilliness. The 2 officials trembled as sweat poured down their faces. They felt as if their heads were spinning. Emerald Flow Lake is a place where 7 or 8 of you officials have been sharing profits for a long time. Yet, now that the royal court wants to take it back for use, you dare come to me complaining about the people's anguish. Where are the anguished people? Could it be that the people's anguish is really your anguish? You used the pretense of public opinion to put pressure on my decision. Tai Butan's gaze became icy all of a sudden. He yelled coldly, Wangzi, do you think I am an easy target to pick on because I am young? Plop. The 2 men trembled uncontrollably. Their legs became weak. Unable to stand, they kneeled flat on the ground. Tai Butan continued, so, officials, do I need your permission to make use of Emerald Flow Lake? We do not dare. The 2 people banged their heads on the floor repeatedly. At this moment, they were filled with regrets. They could not believe that this Emerald Flow Lake incident was the prince's idea. Moreover, they could not believe that he was that determined. Emerald Flow Lake is property of the country, a beautiful scenic area in Ironcloud Citadel. Yet you people conspired to make your own profits. What a joke. You are officials of the royal court, you get paid by the royal court, and yet you truly disappoint me. Tai Butan said hurtfully, never mind. You are elder officials of the royal court. I don't want to pursue this any further. Official Wang, go and notify all the other houses that they have to contribute half of their earnings from Emerald Flow Lake these past years to the country's treasury. You may leave. Yes. Yes. Thank you for your generosity, your highness. The 2 bowed over and over again. Sweat were pouring as if they just bathed, as if they just took a tour past the gate of hell and managed to return. Do you think any of the houses need me to send my own books for comparison? As the 2 thankfully backed out, Tai Butan seemingly muttered this phrase. It immediately startled them, and caused them to trip down the stairs in the most embarrassing manner. Looking at the 2 people leaving awkwardly, Tai Butan's gaze remained cold. He had been waiting and waiting for news from Butan Pavilion, news about Chu Yang, not words from these people. Now that he had verified Chu Yang's ability, Tai Butan made his final decision. If he had not yet gotten the results, Tai Butan would have kept those 2 waiting for another day. Butan Pavilion is finally beginning to take shape. Tai Butan looked up the moon suspended outside his window, and sighed. Since it was formed, Butan Pavilion was just a useless name. It was nothing more than a diversion to distract the enemies. Even though Tai Butan's title was only prince, he held the complete responsibilities of a country's ruler. How could he have had any time for Butan Pavilion? This appearance of Chu Yang basically filled in that gap. Shadow Lord, what do you think? How far will Chu Yang raise Butan Pavilion? Tai Butan seemed to be muttering to himself. The air in front of him became blurry and twisted mysteriously for a while. The atmosphere seemed to have been slightly contorted. and suddenly a ghostly shadow appeared. A dry and low voice spoke. You really should not be asking me about this. I am not asking you. It's just, I want to meet you two for a little. Tian said lightly, I rely on you two the most, and yet I cannot see you. It has been a few days, so I wanted to talk with you, that's all. Only when I am sure that you are next to me that I can sleep peacefully. Only then will I dare fall asleep. Ha ha. The eyes of that shadow seemed to be slightly touched. It said with a raspy voice, Your Highness can rest assured, as long as the two of us are here, then no one in lower three heavens can kill you. Tian chuckled and nodded. He muttered, I am so tired. After that he took 2 steps back and lay down on the bed. He whispered, Two Shadow Lords, you should rest also. The atmosphere changed and contorted for a while before the shadow completely disappeared in the darkness of the night. On the comfortable bed, Tian quickly became immersed in deep sleep. The appearance of the shadow seemed to have greatly reassured him. Even though Tian did not know what the shadow's cultivation was, he was clear on one thing: if it were not for these 2 shadows always staying next to him, Daewoo King Ru would have picked off his head countless times already. By the time Cheng Zheng came back from Tian's place it was almost morning. When he got the door of his room and was about to push it open, he suddenly became startled. He yelled in a low voice, Who's there? It's me. A cool voice answered. Then the candle in the room was immediately lit. So it's the minister. Cheng Zheng breathed a sigh of relief as he pushed the door and walked in. In the room, Chu Yang was haughtily sitting in the middle chair. His cold eyes looked at Cheng Zheng. Did the minister visit my room this late in the night to teach me something? Cheng Zheng did not understand why his heart started to beat fast. He clearly felt that the opponent's strength was not equal to his. He only needed to raise his arm and he could send Chu Yang to his death. However, he did not understand why he felt reluctant and even scared when it came to this frail-looking youth. To him, this was something that really could not be explained. I dare not. Chu Yang smiled and said, This afternoon, my words were a little harsh. Plus, I did not notify official Cheng ahead of time about the changes in positions, so I felt a little uneasy. No, Minister Chu is clever. With a flick of your hand, you found a bunch of traitors and helped Bhutan Pavilion eliminate this quiet danger. Moreover, as fast as lightning, you organized all of Bhutan Pavilion's strengths into the appropriate groups. I truly admire that. Cheng Zheng laughed. So in that case, official Cheng agreed with all of my actions, correct? Chu Yang smiled and asked, Of course, I fully support them. Cheng Zheng nodded repeatedly as he continued to contemplate Chu Yang's true motive in this visit. At this time, he felt a little apprehensive and a little unsettled. The prince did not say anything, right? Chu Yang smiled as he continued to ask. He didn't say anything. Halfway through, Cheng Zheng suddenly became lucid. The words choked in his throat as he looked at Chu Yang in astonishment. His eyes looked as if he just saw a demon. It's good that he did not say anything. Chu Yang stood up, and said with a slight nod, Actually, I had hoped that he would add something. Ha ha ha. Official Cheng, you are of a great age and yet you have to work so hard. Ha ha. You should rest soon. He stopped there, then pushed the door open and walked out arrogantly. Cheng Zheng's head was full of sweat. However, his whole body was cold. After everything at Bhutan Pavilion was finalized, Cheng Zheng immediately went into a secret tunnel. He went to the prince's manor at top speed. After that, he relayed everything in the shortest amount of time possible, and returned at the fastest speed. The whole process did not even take 15 minutes. And yet, Chu Yang already knew everything. He was waiting right there. Even if Tian secretly notified Chu Yang, he could not have been that fast. Cheng Zheng suddenly understood. The youth in front of him had a mind with a depth as deep as the sea. In front of him, no one could hide anything. Just now, he did not say anything, but he clearly came to find me. Your whereabouts are in the palm of my hand. For 10,000 times, you should not have any wrong ideas, or you will be sorry. This was his meaning. Looking at Chu Yang leaving, Cheng Zheng let out a deep sigh. Walking in the night wind, Chu Yang felt very refreshed. He had always paid attention to Cheng Zheng because he was sure that Cheng Zheng was Tai Butan's representative at Butan Pavilion. Cheng Zheng might have been a high-level expert, but he was not a suitable leader. He could climb to the position of Pavilion Lord because, first, he was currently the most powerful one, and, second, he was trustworthy. Otherwise, Tai Butan would not have let an outsider hold the Pavilion Lord position of Butan Pavilion like that. Moreover, while Tai Butan was the founder, he did not hold a single important responsibility. In fact, his leadership position was in name only and not even notable. This was because Tai Butan trusted Cheng Zheng. Chu Yang absolutely believed that Tai Butan would not have abandoned Butan Pavilion just like that. That was why upon seeing Cheng Zheng disappear after everything ended, Chu Yang knew that he ran to report to Tai Butan. After all, Butan Pavilion underwent such a big change. He would have to immediately notify Tai Butan. So Chu Yang immediately went into Cheng Zheng's room and waited. Having such a bad aftertaste did not feel too good. What Chu Yang wanted was total control of Butan Pavilion, not having an informant by his side all the time. Having an unsettling feeling like that was not too good. However, getting rid of Cheng Zheng altogether was beyond Chu Yang's ability. So Chu Yang wanted to use this threat to put the maximum amount of pressure on Cheng Zheng. It's fine that you are the prince's person, but this is my territory. If you are a dragon, you will still have to curl up. If you are a tiger, you will still have to bow. Without my permission, don't you dare try to create any waves. Don't think that because you have the prince's trust, you can do whatever you want. As long as I am the boss of this place, it is my territory. Chu Yang went and let out a ferocious and hideous laugh. That terrifying voice was carried outside by the night wind. In a home next to the road, a baby had been crying. It immediately stopped and became completely silent. After arriving at Emerald Flow Lake, Chu Yang, even with superhuman composure, was rendered dumbfounded by the scene before him. Around the lake was a fortified wall, blocking all possible views. Emerald Flow Lake was famous for its tranquility, but now, in the middle of the night, the deafening commotion of construction went on. There were numerous brawny overseers with their leather whips supervising on the side. In the middle of the lake, there was a gazebo. Gaduk Singh stood motionless though with his arms crossed in front of his chest. His gaze was as cold as a blade, watching over the entire surroundings. He continued like that without moving, but somehow he made the atmosphere around Emerald Flow Lake feel chilly like the end of autumn. At the floor of the gazebo was some sort of chaotic mess. Upon closer observation, it turned out more than 10 people were tossed there. They were not dead bodies, but those people were about half dead. The bunch of them let out feeble moans but none dared to yell out loud. One of them groaned a little too loudly, and Gaduk Singh, seemingly relaxing above, yelled coldly, "Noisy!" Bam! Half a piece of tile fell down from the roof and hit the wound on the man's leg. A painful wail rose. That person wanted to cry more, but dared not make any more noises. He just bore his suffering and suppressed it internally. All those around him shuddered in fear. Still in his dumbfounded state, Chu Yang ran closer. He smacked his own head and said, "It's all my fault. I did not tell Gaduk Singh clearly that I only wanted the center island. Now this guy has taken over the entire lake." "You have arrived?" Gaduk Singh flew down from the pavilion like a cloud and landed in front of Chu Yang. With the exception of that previous drunken incident where his face was a little friendly, the sober Gaduk Singh continued to show the icy appearance of a cadaver. "Ah, you did these things?" Chu Yang pointed to the surrounding area. I took over all of Emerald Flow Lake." Gaduk Singh said coolly, "We have a lot of money, and we needed to be fast, so I invited all of the construction teams here." Chu Yang was reeling. What happened with those people? He pointed to the bunch of people who got their limbs broken by Gaduk crossing. "This is a minor thing, not worth mentioning at all." Gaduk Singh said calmly, "I heard that this area belonged to some officials. These are their people, mostly housekeepers, and such. Anyone that came to cause trouble, I gave them a beating and sent them running. I already sent many of them away." Gaduk Singh rolled his eyes and said coldly, "Just a few officials, and they dared to interfere with our work. They really are gutsy." Chu Yang rubbed his forehead and asked cautiously, "Did you kill anyone?" In his heart, He was quietly praying that this man did not kill too many people. If that was the case, it might be hard to clean up after them. Even with Taibutan wiping his butt, it would still be a little unreasonable. Taking over people's properties and killing them would make them look like criminals. He looked around a little, and saw numerous injured people. As for dead bodies, there seemed to be none. "Don't worry, I have self-control." When Gaduk Singh said this, Chu Yang relaxed quite a bit. However, he almost keeled over as Gaduk Singh continued, "I just killed a dozen or so people. Not a big deal. But having dead bodies here is unlucky, so I had people drag them away." Chu Yang's body trembled and his face darkened. Finally, he could only raise his thumb. "You are really ruthless. A weak tolerance does not make a gentleman. Without cruelty, there is no great man." Gaduk Singh said casually, "Only those who are cruel can live in this world." Chu Yang was silent. He finally waved his arm and said, "I am going to sleep." "Wait, what is it?" "It's your turn to watch for a while." "I have been watching all day. Now I need to practice my sword work and rest." Gaduk Singh did not bother turning back and just walked off. Before leaving, he left these words, "There is no place to sleep here. I had all the old structures destroyed. You should just make do by finding some place to sit." Chu Yang had all the injured people brought to the lake's side. Gaduk Singh was nowhere to be seen at this point. Chu Yang stood quietly for a while before shaking his head in resignation. After that, he found a secluded place near the lake and sat down with his legs crossed. He activated 9 Tribulations Transcending the 9 Heavens technique. For Chu Yang, each day, around bedtime was the best time for cultivation. He definitely did not want to waste that precious time. He followed his thought and entered the sea of his mind. Chu Yang also concentrated on getting rid of impurities. All things between heaven and earth became completely peaceful. And just like that, he slowly rid himself of all distractions as his heart became like a quiet lake surface. The construction site was currently noisy and bustling, but it did not seem to have an effect on his cultivation. From a distance, Gaduk Singh was in a frenzy, practicing with his sword. Suddenly he shot toward Chu Yang's direction. His mind was in shock. How could this be? He is only a 4th grade martial warrior. Even though Gaduk Singh was practicing his sword arts, he never stopped paying attention to Chu Yang's movements. Since the day the word brother was spoken, Gaduk Singh felt as if he had a place to lean on. He felt as if he had a family member, Chu Yang. Though the two never talked about ranks, Gaduk Singh knew that Chu Yang was younger than him. And though he and Chu Yang did not know each other before, he gave him a home and helped him when he was at the end of his rope. He even promised to help him reach the pinnacle of his cultivation. Since the day Chu Yang said that he would help him so that he would not let down Miaoling's love, Gaduk Singh already saw Chu Yang as not only his savior but a brother who he would share life and death with. Because my brother understood me, knew everything about me. Before, Gaduk Singh only worried about 2 people, his foster father and his sister Xiao Miao. But now he had one more person to worry about, Chu Yang. At first glance, Chu Yang seemed to act mature, but Gaduk Singh knew that his maturity was born from being through many hardships in life. Every time he thought about this, Gaduk Singh felt greatly distressed. Compared to Chu Yang, Gaduk Singh felt he was luckier by far. At least when he was young, he had the love, attention, and care of his parents. After his family's tragedy, he was taken care of by his foster father. It could be said that he did not suffer too much hardship. But Gaduk Singh felt Chu Yang was like a little brother who was forced to grow up, and was in need of his care and protection. There was no reason, this kind of feeling naturally arose. At first, he thought that Chu Yang's cultivation was higher than his. He absolutely did not imagine that Chu Yang's cultivation was actually just grade 4 martial warrior. Therefore, when he witnessed Chu Yang cultivating tonight, he was initially startled and stupefied. Gaduk Singh thought to himself, so what if he is only grade 4? With me here, who would dare to do anything to him? So what if he barely has any martial power? Is Gaduk Singh the type of person that would stand by and watch while his brother is in danger? With such thoughts, Gaduk Singh felt completely relaxed. However, The moment he raised up his sword and tried to continue cultivating, he was taken aback once again. He immediately turned and looked in Chu Yang's direction again. This time, he used too much force and almost twisted his neck. Chu Yang, how? How did he enter meditative state already? Gaduk Singh was at a complete loss. For a grade 4 martial warrior to enter meditative state immediately after sitting down was too monstrous. Even a martial great master could not be that fast. Gaduk Singh stared with his eyes wide opened. On the edge of the pond, the chaotic construction site suddenly seemed far away. In fact, it seemed to have disappeared from this world altogether. The wind gently blew, creating tiny ripples on the lake's surface. Each wave gently hit the shore, one after another in an endless cycle. In this moment, this lake's quiet sounds were carried toward Chu Yang by the curtain of the dark night. Inside his mind, a spiritual light flashed. His energy continued to move as before, but part of his consciousness was concentrated on the sounds created by those gentle waves lapping against the shore. Time slowly passed by, and it was as if Chu Yang had appeared next to a quiet, small lake, whose surface was calm enough to reflect the vast sky. Chu Yang's mind was even more peaceful this time compared to all other times he was in his meditative state. His whole body seemed to have escaped from the bondage of life and became immersed in that tiny lake of his mind. On the other side, Gaduk Singh sighed. This Chu Yang is some sort of abnormality. With such abilities, there is no doubt that he would surpass me in a short time. Entering meditative state right after sitting down, I can't beat that. However, after he finished sighing, he immediately felt that Chu Yang's breath had become elusive. Gaduk Singh was once again startled and turned around. His left hand rubbed his eyes in disbelief. This person entered meditative state just after sitting down, and after only a few breaths, he was already able to advance into the enlightened state. DLN, total escape from reality. Gaduk Singh almost yelled out loud. For Gaduk Singh, he must be in meditative state for at least 2 hours before entering the enlightened state. This was cultivation at the most profound level. This was when the consciousness and thoughts become one. Compared to the normal meditative state, cultivation would be twice as effective in the enlightened state. Chu Yang could advance into it so easily. Monstrous. The edge of Gaduk Singh's mouth curved into a slightly bitter smile. He had always thought that he was a rarity in the middle three heavens. He did not expect this kid who was younger than him by a few years could make him lose almost all of his confidence with just a few breaths. Inside his consciousness, Chu Yang slowly opened his eyes and stared intensely at the little waves tirelessly lapping at the shore. He started to understand a little. These waves might not have that much strength, but they did not cease to advance, retreat, advance again, retreat again. No, even slightly weary. Chu Yang could not help but think, just like a person cultivating, these extremely ordinary waves did not become cheerful because of a little success and did not become weary because of a little failure. They were not rash but simply continued to aim straight ahead. Not knowing how their cultivation would increase, he continued to stare as he felt the energy in his body slowing, becoming like the waves endlessly flowing through his meridians and lapping in an energy circle, one round after another, quietly advancing. At this moment, Chu Yang's consciousness advanced into an even more profound state. He felt as if all of heaven and earth suddenly became nothing. No material, no desire, nothing existed. His whole body seemed to have dissolved into the quiet pond in front of him, softly becoming the gentle waves that went back and forth. This process by itself seemed able to gather all emotions in life, contentment and happiness, sweetness and tranquility. It was as if they could go on forever, and one would not be bored. In a distance, Gaduk Singh's mouth opened wide as he stared. His mouth opened wide like a hippo. His sword quietly dropped to the ground. Gaduk Singh collapsed. Oh God, help me. Tell me this is not real. How could this be? Gaduk Singh was pulling his hair, and it was not until he felt great pain that he came to his senses. Oh God. The legendary heaven and man becoming one. This peak state. I can't believe it actually happened in front of me. Earlier, when he discovered a strange happening, he did not turn back. He even had hoped that Chu Yang could stay in the enlightened state for a long time. The longer the better. This would have been good for his cultivation. However, he did not expect what happened next. An even more monstrous thing happened in front of him. He clearly could see Chu Yang sitting there, but he no longer was able to feel Chu Yang's existence. Such a situation could only happen for one reason: heaven and man becoming one. The ultimate state of enlightenment in martial arts. It transcended normal cultivation, and only existed in the realm of legends. This state was supposed to be achievable only upon reaching the level of martial king. Even with martial kings, this was not common. Only in the occasional realm of deep understanding can this state occur. According to legends, each time a person advanced into this state, the yield would not be small. But how could this rare situation happen? Normally, absolute serenity must be maintained for more than 2 hours of the enlightened state before having a small chance of entering the heaven and man becoming one state. Rushing would guarantee failure. Everything must happen naturally. If disturbed, everything would be for naught, plus, there would be a decrease in level also. But Chu Yang, how? How could he, in this loud construction with the lapping water of the lake, advanced into the heaven and man becoming one state? Are there any heavenly laws left? Gaduk Singh plopped his butt on the ground. It hit hard on a rock, but all his senses still did not come back. After Chu Yang entered this speak state, he leisurely explored. At this moment, the interspace where Nine Tribulations Sword tip resided opened up, as if it was breathing in and out. Above the water of the lake, a layer of fog, unseen by the naked eye, slowly gathered. It flew in the air, and, as if guided by some unseen force, twirled around Chu Yang's body. Finally, it quickly entered his body, and disappeared. Time slowly passed by. Another layer of fog gathered on the lake's surface, and then another layer. Who knew how long? 2 hours, 4 hours. Gaduk Singh remained stunned where he sat, soaked in dew. The first ray on sunlight just rose behind the curtain of fog, but Chu Yang still did not rouse. Under Gaduk Singh's gaze, the air around Chu Yang suddenly stirred. Chu Yang's level was going up slowly. It was only because of this that Gaduk Singh could still feel Chu Yang's existence. Grade 4 Martial Warrior, Mid-level Grade 4 Martial Warrior, Top-level Grade 4 Martial Warrior. Peak. Breakthrough. Grade 5 Martial Warrior. Gaduk Singh felt his jaw drop to the ground. Mother, heaven-born talent. I have met many, but I have never seen such monster. Gaduk Singh searched his entire brain but was not able to find the right word to describe Chu Yang. This guy has totally transcended beyond the human category. The advancement in martial arts level became more and more difficult as your level got higher. Each level was divided into 9 grades, and each grade was divided into top, middle, and low. Had it not always been the case that people broke through step after step, slowly accumulating, while martial warrior level was still low and using elixirs to advance by multiple orders at a time was not strange, but not using any elixirs and advancing in one shot during cultivation like that was unheard of. The living legend, limitless extreme Sabu Yongxiang of upper 3 heavens, broke through the ranks of martial warrior in 4 days during his youth. This record had not been broken by anyone. However, today, Gaduk Singh saw with his own eyes a freak who broke through from low to top grade in 2 hours. He actually witnessed this wonder. Gaduk Singh swallowed, feeling extremely inferior. God. He's still not done. Gaduk Singh's eyes widened because he felt Chu Yang's energy fluctuated once again. Mid-level Grade 5 Martial Warrior. The term thunderstruck could not describe the shock and fear that Gaduk Singh was feeling right now. He was numb. Top-level Grade 5 Martial Warrior. Peak of Grade 5 Martial Warrior. Grade 6. Mid-level Grade 6. God. Thank goodness he's finally stopped. If not, I would probably vomit blood. He stopped at the peak of Grade 6. Gaduk Singh banged his head on the ground as he said a silent prayer. Living with such an anomaly really hurt one's self-esteem. I am also a talent. Compared to that guy, I might as well bang my head against the wall and die. He went up 2 grades in less than 4 hours. Gaduk Singh felt as if he was dreaming, an incredible, absurd, bizarre dream. Finally, Chu Yang emerged from that miraculous state. At the moment he came to, the voice of Nine Tribulations Sword rose in Chu Yang's head. You have finally come to understand the power of heaven and earth. The voice was filled with happiness. The power of heaven and earth? Chu Yang asked skeptically, is this the power of heaven and earth? This is still far lacking compared to the power of heaven and earth. What you have just experienced was one of 100,000 types of forces of heaven and earth. Gentle force of water. This is a lucky chance. Your previous life was filled with hardship. Your head was so preoccupied with revenge, you were not able to see anything else. I cannot believe you were able to experience one type so early in this life. Huh? Water is divided into tangible and intangible forces. Tangible energy force includes roaring sea force, flash flood destructive force, heaven's water force, and heaven's violence force. What you just experienced was the gentle force of the tangible forces. What is the use of this force? Conquering with gentleness. That voice said, as to how to use it, that depends on you. There is nothing Nine Tribulations Transcending the Nine Heavens technique cannot use. Then in that case, mountains, rivers, oceans, lakes, forest, dirt, wind, lightning, rain, snow, and clouds all carry different forces? Chu Yang mused. You can't even imagine. If you could experience them, then that is your good fortune. If you could not, then anything I say would be meaningless. This is a matter of chance and understanding. That tiny voice slowly disappeared. Isn't the purpose of your existence to show me the way to these chances? Chu Yang asked. Not a sound answered him. It seemed that voice had fallen asleep once again. Chu Yang knew that Nine Tribulations Sword was not a cure-all. If he wanted to reach the peak of cultivation, he must depend on himself. Whether it was Nine Tribulations Sword or Nine Tribulations Transcending the Nine Heavens technique, even with the sword spirit, they could not replace the actual person. Only when he reached a certain specific point by his own efforts would Nine Tribulations Sword tell him the appropriate details. If he did not work hard, then holding the most powerful weapon in the world would be equivalent to holding a rotten piece of wood. Chu Yang mused. That little reminder earlier was enough. Open his eyes to the vast infinite nature of martial arts. Before, Chu Yang had cultivated following a small and narrow path. But, currently, he could see the wide open space and blue sky, a universe without end. With an elated sigh, Chu Yang stood up. His joints cracked. It was not until he looked up at the morning sky, that he was somewhat surprised. Clearly, he only sat for less than 4 hours. How could this phenomenon happen? It was definitely not from fatigue, but for the joints to crack like that, you normally had to sit for the whole night. Normally, when he would sit and cultivate for the whole night, this phenomenon would happen in combination with the feeling of fatigue. Today, he felt refreshed, as if freed from some shackles, and his whole body was so light it could fly. It was like instead of cultivating, he had a great night of sleep. He tried activating his energy a little bit when energy suddenly surged up from his Dantian and flowed around his meridians. Chu Yang felt something was not right and immediately tried to push the energy flow for another round. His mouth gaped. Normally, the energy could not reach 2 consecutive points at once, but this time, it was unexpectedly unimpeded. Breakthrough. Chu Yang could not contain his excitement. He could not believe that only after 4 hours of cultivation, he was able to break through 2 grades. This was too fantastic. Chu Yang felt completely relaxed when a person appeared in front of him. Staring at Gaduxing, he only saw a haggard face and 2 bloodshot eyes staring back at him. His countenance was scary, but the cold dead look he normally carried around was not there. What's wrong with you? Chu Yang asked in surprise. What is what? Gaduxing gritted his teeth and let out a low growl. What do you have to say? Chu Yang scratched his head and asked in annoyance. Is there something important? Gaduxing went berserk. He jumped up and roared loudly. How did you do that? How did I do what? Chu Yang asked in confusion. Are you still human? Gaduxing hurriedly circled Chu Yang. Then he bent down his head, with his nose almost touching Chu Yang's nose. Are you going to tell me? How did you advance 2 grades in 4 hours? Gaduxing almost cried. Mother, this guy is pretending to be innocent. You are talking about this? Chu Yang innocently scratched his head. To tell you the truth, I am not sure about this myself. I only discovered that I had advanced 2 grades when I came to. I am still secretly happy about it. You are not sure about this? Secretly happy? Guduk-Singh could only see blue and red stars holding hands and dancing in front of his eyes. His whole world was spinning. He let out 2 moans and looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. Finally, he slammed his foot down and took a deep breath to suppress his rising blood pressure. In the end, he suddenly felt that this kind of thing might not be clear to the party involved either. When it comes martial warrior rookies like Chu Yang, it was even more possible that he did not know. This was just his good fortune. Everything was born out of a state of unconsciousness. If Chu Yang was aware of what was going on, that would have been an impossible thing. I really don't know. Chu Yang said innocently, I was just cultivating when I just suddenly broke through. Don't say. Guduk-Singh waved his hands dismissively as he looked Chu Yang with a lost expression. He almost wanted to kick Chu Yang. This was too much. Someone so clueless like this advanced so quickly. While I witnessed it from beginning to end at that, I, myself, have been pursuing this state for so many years and have not experienced it even once. With that thought, Guduk-Singh suddenly became so emotional he almost cried. I should be the one who advanced. Chu Yang didn't have any answers. How could he not want Guduk-Singh to quickly advance in his cultivation? After all, his own strength was still too weak. Advancing by 2 grades was of little use. On the other hand, Guduk-Singh was a grade 5 sword great master. Even if he advanced by only 1 grade, his fighting strength would greatly increase. However, this sort of thing depended entirely on chance and the person's understanding. If Chu Yang tried to help him understand before his due time, it might even cause a delay in his advancement in cultivation. It could even lead to Guduk-Singh never being able to experience the states that Chu Yang told him about. It can only be yours if you experienced it yourself. No matter how good the other person's experience was, it was still their own thoughts. How could 2 people's thoughts be the same? If Guduk-Singh had already experienced what Chu Yang experienced earlier during his cultivation, then Chu Yang would imitate the sword spirit and give him some hints on how to get the best results. But, currently Guduk-Singh had yet to arrive at these states. Telling him anything at all would not be good for his future. Chu Yang understood this principle, Guduk-Singh understood as well. Therefore, they were both gloomy. That state, how did you enter it? Guduk-Singh asked with a ray of hope. But as soon as those words escaped from his mouth, he immediately shook his head. Never mind. I am guessing you don't entirely know it either. This kind of mysterious state, even if you knew ahead of time, you couldn't enter it anyway. Very wise. You know a lot. Chu Yang praised with a thumb up. But that kind of compliment only made Guduk-Singh's face flashed red and white. He became even more depressed. I don't know how to advance into such states. More importantly, I cannot tell you about my own experience. But I know one thing. Chu Yang looked at Guduk-Singh, and said slowly. That is, you are in too much of a rush. You should know that haste makes waste. The more you rush, the less you will accomplish. Currently, you have not entered any states. You could keep training hard, but you will end up destroying yourself. Guduk-Singh was stunned. He suddenly stood erect with a pensive look. These words Chu Yang just spoke seemed to have struck a chord and woke him up. He quietly thought for a moment. His breathing normalized, and he said calmly, that is right. I have been in too much of a hurry. This was my dark side. Your experiences and your advancements are your own thoughts and chances. If I am to have my own experience, that would be my own chance. Why must I forcefully ask for it? I only need myself. Chu Yang smiled and said profoundly, in the end, you will need to depend on yourself. These words were part of what Chu Yang just came to understand. Any enlightenments related to the world of martial arts could not be told to Guduk-Singh. But enlightenment about life could definitely be shared. Depend on yourself. Guduk-Singh's right hand held tightly on to the hilt of his sword. His whole body seemed as if it had been transformed into an unsheathed sword, and radiated a sharp energy. His eyes gradually brightened. Depend on yourself did not mean to not get any help from friends and live alone your entire life. It simply meant to rely on your best efforts and your own state of mind. Of course, Gaduk Singh understood this very well. Chu Yang, brother, you have helped me once again. Gaduk Singh said sincerely as he gazed upon the morning light rising from the east. You once said if there was a mountain of knives in front of me, walk on you without any regrets. Chu Yang smiled. If that's the case, before going over that mountain, what is this little favor I am doing for you? Gaduk Singh smiled and stood up. With a rarely seen peaceful smile, he repeated softly, right, if in front of you is a mountain of knives, I will let you walk on me to cross it. He said these words really quietly, barely emitting a sound. Chu Yang could only see his lips move slightly but could not hear what he was saying. But Gaduk Singh knew that this was no different than him making an oath. He knew Chu Yang's previous words were out of jest. But Gaduk Singh was also sure that if, one day, there was a mountain of knives in front of him, Chu Yang would probably do the same for him. There were some things that need not be said, they were better off kept inside one's heart. Therefore, Gaduk Singh did not say anything else. He simply took those words and engraved them deep in his heart. By tomorrow, this wall border will be complete. As for the rooms inside, I have already given the work orders. For now, I want to go out for a bit. Gaduk Singh stared at the calm lake surface as he spoke. If we just keep sitting here, no martial experts will come and join us. I need to go out and choose a few more people. Also to kill a few more people. Okay, leave all of this to me. Gaduk Singh said slowly, I ran away from home to also give myself a chance to train. A phenomenon of heaven and earth had appeared. All of the 9 heavens will change. Middle 3 heavens and upper 3 heavens all have disciples of large family clans coming out to train. Moreover, they are all outstanding talents from one clan or another. Gaduk Singh did not have to finish for Chu Yang to understand his intentions. He interrupted, so you intend to recruit these people? The moment Chu Yang finished his question, he immediately felt disturbed. The world is changing, the 9 heavens are changing, family clans training. What does all this mean? This never happened in the previous life. The appearance of these people in lower 3 heavens. What will happen now? How will fate be affected? What will happen to this continent? What effects will all these things have? Gaduk Singh thought for a little, and finally shook his head. I am not sure. He thought a little more and sighed. I am not sure at all. Chu Yang smiled. He understood Gaduk Singh's meaning when he said the phrase, not sure. First, when it came to getting talented people from powerful families into Heavenly Armament Pavilion, it would be difficult. Each of these people was extremely talented. How could they agree to be subservient to others? Second, if he did manage to get someone to join, that person would not want to be under anyone. In fact, that person might just want to take over the whole thing. In that case, he was not sure if he could stop that person. After all, how could these little masters not take a few powerful guards with them when they go out to train? And the strength of just Gaduk Singh and Chu Yang was still very weak. The 2 sons of your foster father, which one will be coming down here? Chu Yang asked. They are both coming down. Gaduk Singh let out a faint smile. They are very competitive with each other, neither of them would agree to sit still. Gaduk Singh smiled and said cynically, should we kill them? Chu Yang suggested sincerely, they have always walked all over you. Later on, they surely will not leave you alone. Have you ever thought about this? Gaduk Singh was shocked. His eyes expressed mixed feelings as he looked at Chu Yang. If I had intended to kill them, I would have killed them already. He turned and said quietly, no matter what, they are still my foster father's sons. He only has these 2 sons. Plus, they are Sister Xiaomiao's brothers. If the 2 of them died, I am afraid my foster father and Sister Xiaomiao would be devastated. As for the Ge family, they would no longer have a successor. It is strange, but I want to kill them more than you do. But I will never kill them. Because of the Ge family, because my foster father's care for me was as great as a mountain, and because of Sister Xiaomiao. Gaduk Singh said sincerely, I would even protect them if they were in danger. He laughed bitterly. It's contradictory, right? Gaduk crossing Chu Yang said earnestly, you are truly a great man. No, you are a model of what a man should be. To kill is a great man. But to not kill is a role model for all men. To kill is a great man. But to not kill is a role model for all men. Gaduk Singh quietly repeated. A little later, He smiled and shook his head without saying anything. He quietly stood for a while, looking at the eastern sky. Afterward, he took a deep breath and said, "The sun is up, I am going. At the latest, I should be back within a month." Without waiting for Chu Yang's answer, he lifted his arms. Like a gliding eagle, he did not fly up, but touched the water surface with his feet twice before reaching the shore on the other side. From a distance, he waved goodbye. His body shook twice, and he completely disappeared. On the lake, the two ripples created where Gaduk Singh's feet touched the water were still slowly spreading outward. Chu Yang stood quietly next to the lake, feeling a familiar strength increasing inside his body. He seemed to be waiting for something. Morning came. The massive lakeside construction made the entire area noisy. Since last night, after Tai Bhutan reprimanded the two officials, the 6 great families dared not come and ask about those properties anymore. However, they were not shy about getting justice. After all, their guards and servants had either died or suffered from injuries. All their housekeepers were also detained. This caused a great uproar amongst the aristocrats of Ironcloud Citadel. People came to ask for justice. People came to look at the excitement. There were even some officials who came to help mediate. It was chaos. But this chaos barely lasted 5 minutes when there was suddenly a voice like thunder rumbling from all 4 directions. A group of guards came out from all directions. The leader shouted, "His Majesty has decreed that Emerald Flow Lake will be a place to recruit new soldiers. Anyone who dares to get in the way will be charged with treason, and will end up losing all properties and having all 9 generations of his family killed." The group of guards did a few laps around the lake, and shouted out the royal decree 10 times. After that, they dismounted from their horses and groups of 2 stood guard in each direction. The rest of the guards returned to the palace. Throughout the whole ordeal, the troublemakers dared not even look up at the guards. The terror brought on by this decree was obvious. The people from the great families looked at each morosely and left. In the gazebo, Chu Yang closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. He did not make a sound. It was not until the guards left that he opened his 2 eyes and smiled with satisfaction. Tai Bhutan's way of doing things was definitely agreeable. This had shown how important Chu Yang was to him. "In this case, I will immediately help you with your internal affairs." Chu Yang smiled slightly and stood up. Chu Yang did not arrive at Bhutan Pavilion until noon. At this time, Cheng Zheng's people were busy finding anything suspicious from the information they got yesterday. Since morning until now, they have already sent out 3 groups to do their jobs. When they saw Chu Yang arrive, everyone in the pavilion looked at him with admiration. Tell the 3 groups that already went out that they are to record everything along the way, no matter how small. In the process of doing their job, they must not let others know that they are making notes of these details. Chu Yang ordered. In addition, anyone who went through Bhutan Recruitment House must have his identity verified. Chu Yang's eyes scanned the room. All those masters hired by Bhutan Recruitment House, after passing the verification process, must sign their names. Understood? Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong were shaken. You want to say that there are spies inside Recruitment House? I don't mean that. It is better to be cautious. That way, if something does happen, we can investigate and find clues we might not have noticed before. Chu Yang smiled. On another note, there are some helpful supports in the cultivation house. Anyone not on a mission must go and cultivate. Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong rolled their eyes. Is he using military rules to manage Bhutan Pavilion? Will this work? In addition, the prince has decreed that anyone over martial warrior level accepting Recruitment House's invitation will receive 100 gills of silver upon approval. Anyone who make a great contribution will be awarded gold and silver accordingly. Moreover, they could also be given official positions, as high as royal officials in the court or generals on the battlefield, or even made honorary royal family members. What? Royal officials in the court, generals on the battlefield, honorary royal family members? Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong's eyes widened. Minister. This is too. Chu Yang said casually, without great rewards, without money and material wealth, who would risk their lives for you? Do you really think everyone came to Bhutan Pavilion because of their people and their country? Patriots need food, too. They also want to get married and have a family. They also desire wealth and luxury. He smiled and looked at the two. Even you two are like that. Cheng Zheng and Chen Yutong looked at each other, each saw a flash in the other's eyes. The prince really said those things? Cheng Zheng still felt suspicious. He thought that his revered saber artist cultivation, while not a top-level master in lower three heavens, was enough to make a contribution and rule a region without much difficulty. If Taibu Tan really promised so, then I must work hard and try even harder. I can testify to this. Chu Yang said sincerely. On the two people's faces appeared an uncontrollable happiness. Enough. Send all documents on every Ironclad official to me. Let's start with Ironclad Citadel. Only the 5th rank officials and higher. I don't need the lower ranking ones. With that, Chu Yang immediately turned and walked out. There was one thing he did not say. Daiwu King Ru would not waste his time with the lower ranks anyway. As for what Chu Yang said about the rewards, 100 tals was not much, but becoming royal officials in the court, generals on the battlefield, or honorary royal family members. These were much more attractive to people. In this time period, leaders and officials were greatly valued. For those in Jianghu who would normally resort to robbery and thieving, this was especially inviting. Chu Yang could gander a guess as to what kind of sensation this would create after the notices go out. News of Chu Yang's request for documents on the officials quickly got to Taibu Tan's ears. This prince immediately went to see Chu Yang with such haste. It was as if there was a fire burning behind his butt. Senior Chu, you want to cleanse the royal court? Taibu Tan hastily asked before he could even sit down properly. Ah, is that not okay? Chu Yang asked back. Taibu Tan smiled. He always felt that his relationship with Chu Yang was a little weird. He practiced temper saintly technique, and while he was very busy recently, he never stopped. Therefore he carried a regal aura of a ruler that all those who faced him would find intimidating. However, each time he faced Chu Yang, he was treated like an ordinary person. Taibu Tan could not imagine how fortified Chu Yang's mind must be. According to the information he had, Chu Yang was only a youth of 17. Ironclad's royal court has been through 3 cleansings already. To do this again now, would be too soon. Taibu Tan said with a trace of bitterness. Since Ironclad fell into this weak position, many officials even left their Ironclad posts, especially at the borders. Many of them moved over to Great Zha and attempted to enter that political arena. Taibu Tan had every intention to straighten out the royal court, but he did not expect Chu Yang to make his move so quickly. Do you believe that those kinds of people are useful to Ironclad? Chu smiled cynically. Like a phoenix, after burning to ashes it will live again. Only from great suffering can this country be truly powerful. If there is only smooth failing, then the only path will be that of destruction. You think I don't know that? Taibu Tan said miserably. Currently, we do not have many people left, let alone replacing them. Better to have a trustworthy few. Chu Yang said coldly. Taibu Tan lowered his head and thought for a while. Then he lifted his head and said, let's do this. I will give you a list of a few hundred old families. In the cleansing process, if you have to deal with these people, at least give them a way out. Taibu Tan laughed at himself. These families are deeply rooted in Ironclad. If they rise up, I am afraid Ironclad would be shaken. That year, second uncle tried his best to avoid them even through 2 cleansings. You should pay close attention. Chu Yang considered for a little and said, all right. But if I really can't avoid it, I will use a more gentle method. Taibu Tan pretended not to understand Chu Yang's meaning. That would be good. Whether it is to rule a nation or to do anything else, a little gentleness is always good. The two people looked at each other and smiled. They finally have an understanding. Taibu Tan understood Chu Yang's meaning of the word gentle very well, but he did not say it. An unspoken understanding was wise, whereas openly saying it out loud would be foolish. DLN, your guess is as good as mine. But I suddenly remembered that Machu Ozu was really gentle. Taibu Tan was silent when he suddenly raised his brows and asked, Emerald Flow Lake? How is it? Very good. Chu Yang said cheerfully, filled with satisfaction. About the award system for the candidates, what does your highness think? Taibu Tan laughed mischievously. Very good. Chu Yang also laughed. Both of their laughs seemed to carry some hidden thoughts. I already ordered Cheng Zhang to leave all decisions in regards to Bhutan Pavilion's matters to you. Tai Bhutan looked at Chu Yang seriously, but I need to get information from your side, because I cannot remain deaf to it all. Chu Yang was moved by these words. They had shown that Tai Bhutan was very sincere. I know. That's why I just put a little pressure on him instead of getting rid of him. But there is something I am not too clear on. Why do you trust me so? Chu Yang said. Tai Bhutan calmly looked at Chu Yang for a moment. Then he slowly smiled and said, Intuition. I sensed that you are a trustworthy person. It's that simple. Chu Yang suddenly discovered that Tai Bhutan's smile was very fascinating. It started at his eyes, and traveled gradually to the tip of his nose, which moved slightly. Then it reached the edge of his mouth, which stretched. And finally, it reached his cheeks. His eyes brightened every time he smiled, and made others feel very happy. In this moment, Tai Bhutan's smile does not carry any majestic aura. It is lovable. Yes, very lovable. Strangely, this line of thought rose inside Chu Yang, startling him. He continually reminded himself, Chu Yang, that is a man. That is a man. Seeing Chu Yang staring at him, mesmerized, Tai Bhutan became annoyed all of a sudden and said, I will leave now. Without waiting for Chu Yang to see him off, Tai Bhutan stood up and left with dragon tiger steps, and quickly disappeared. It was as if he was running away. Chu Yang's mouth became crooked as he muttered, Come on, must you use such an imposing air even when leaving? Clearly he just used a technique for emperors. Mother, if he didn't use that technique, would anyone say he's not a prince? That was a little extreme. After leaving Bhutan Pavilion, Tai Bhutan suddenly remembered. Oops, I forgot to tell him about the movements at the border. He was going to turn around but decided against it after thinking it over. This little fox, every time he talks to me he always looked straight into my eyes, making me so nervous. Tai Bhutan was a prince whose authority had been growing greater and greater over the past few years. With the exception of Tai Longcheng, no one dared look up when talking to him. But time and time again, Chu Yang proved to be the exception. Chu Yang had a habit of looking into people's eyes when they talked. Of course Tai Bhutan did not know that this habit was created by Chu Yang's deep spirit principle. At any time, Chu Yang always used deep spirit principle to verify if the other person was being truthful. This was truly a good habit. He did not care if the other person was a man or a woman. Chu Yang always used that gaze when talking to people, because if a person was lying or thinking of something else, there would always be something a little abnormal in their eyes. Very few people have the cultivation state where they could lie without some anxiety in their hearts, and their eyes would show this abnormality. For the next few days, Chu Yang was very busy. That afternoon, Tai Bhutan decided to send Wu Qian over to be Minister Chu's assistant. Chu Yang was dumbfounded with this decision. He did not know whether to laugh or to cry. Everything was going well, and the prince sent a beauty like Wu Qian to these wolves at Bhutan Pavilion. The minister's good luck inspired looks of envy and admiration. They all had to praise the favor the prince bestowed upon Minister Chu. Such a beauty, and the prince was actually willing to send her over. This really shows how much the prince trusts and values you. During these few days, many tasks were quickly carried out by Bhutan Pavilion. After cleansing Bhutan Pavilion, the new minister got started right away, because he could not show himself. For all deliveries of important documents, he sent the female official the prince sent over, Wu Qian. Each one of those papers was essentially a death sentence. First, an official was arrested. Then, he was handed over to Minister Chu for questioning. After they had all the evidence was then submitted to Tai Bhutan. Finally, a decree was handed down, seizure of all properties and execution of the guilty official. Every now and then, a few other families were also implicated. Even though Minister Chu himself designed special uniforms for the 3 brigades of Bhutan Pavilion, they would all wear black when they carried out their tasks. The Fierce Blood Brigade, headed by their leader, Cheng Zhang, never stopped trading, arresting, and killing. Iron Blood Brigade, headed by Minister Chu, continually interrogated, searched for evidence. As for Heavenly Secret Brigade under the leadership of Chen Yutong, they took turns deciphering information recovered by their spies to find even the smallest clues. After all that was done, they submitted the results for Minister Chu to make his decisions. It went on non-stop for half a month. The rancid smell of blood filled the sky of Iron Cloud Citadel. Bhutan Pavilion essentially replaced the judicial department, with the exception of the jail cells. Everything else was handled by Bhutan Pavilion. Bhutan Pavilion worked with efficiency and speed never seen before. Each member did not even have enough energy to complain. They did not stop, they did not rest. Even if they had free time every now and then, they were forced to cultivate, because as Minister Chu once said, members of Bhutan Pavilion must be martial experts, must be great talents. If your cultivation does not meet the required standards, you might as well kill yourself so you won't be killed by others. You want to quit? That is not an option. Once you join, unless you die during a mission, you cannot leave even if you are handicapped. Handicapped people will be given tasks like intelligence analysis. Under this strict management, all members of Bhutan Pavilion moaned and groaned during training. At any given moment, they felt as if there was a saber hanging above their heads. Minister Chu was truly impartial. He once discovered one of the brothers who was close to him not cultivating. He directly ordered him to be paddled 200 times on the spot. The punishment was so harsh, 4 sticks broke and blood and meat were everywhere. All the while, Minister Chu sat on the side going over various documents while periodically handed out a piece of paper with the words, "Continue paddling. If he dies then he deserves it, if not then he must continue cultivating." With the risk of losing their lives, everyone did not make a peep. Under such high pressure, everyone thought that they would not be able to survive. But 9 days later, early in the morning, a third-grade martial master suddenly announced, under such great pressure he had broken through to grade 4 martial master. Who did not know how hard it was to break through in cultivation? And so everyone ran over to check it out. After verifying the whole thing, their eyes lit up with jealousy. Under great pressure and such a busy schedule, he still managed to break through. A few days later, some people discovered that after a few years of hitting a cultivation bottleneck, they were on the verge of breakthrough. With such role models, even those not required to break through put greater efforts into cultivation. They could not let themselves fall too far behind the others. How humiliating would it be? Moreover, with greater strength they would have a greater chance of making a big contribution, marrying, having children, becoming an official. Everything was waiting for them. After that, everyone seemed to understand Chu Yang's painstaking care. That old repressive atmosphere from before quickly changed to an encouraging one. Minister Chu did everything for our sake.